You get used to it. I mean, you don't want to say stuff. Do you? Oh, I could change it up. I've got a minute. I went to an event the other day. It was that group Kiwanis, and they had their 100-year party, and Danny Webster was there, and everybody stood up, and he's going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and he goes, "Okay, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance," and he turns around and goes, "Do we have a flag?" And they didn't. It's kind of funny, but we got one. Let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, if you could do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Rubio,
Present.
Councilmember Roberts,
Here.
Councilmember Morganelli is absent. Vice Mayor Womack,
Present.
Mayor Wynkoop.
Present. All right. You got anything for us?
Nothing yet. We'll go ahead and start on the
Let's
first
move on.
agenda.
All right. Oh, you know what? I didn't get the agenda.
Oops.
You got one?
Yeah. Got two.
I can't remember it by heart. Thank you. All right, we're going to go workshop here, and I'm going to go through a few different opportunities. And we're going to first talk about the SAFI grant and the construction. And you want to explain that a little better, Paul, about the financing and all?
Okay. Yeah. So I kind of want to start off and just do a review of. We're going to specifically talk about two of the larger grants we have in that construction process. So just wanted to quickly review. We have a water SHAFI grant, which is for our water system. It's a 100% grant with no match requirement for approximately $12.9 million. On the stormwater side, we also have a stormwater grant, and we don't have any PowerPoints tonight, just having a general discussion. On the stormwater, we have now three different grants. We have approximately $19.8 million SHAFI grant. That's a DEP stormwater grant. And as you recall, about 6 months ago, I informed the council that we received a Florida State Legislative Appropriation grant in the amount of $350,000, and that is specifically for crosswalk and sidewalk safety improvements in front of the school area. Then I'll have more information at the next meeting about the details, but just notified through Mr. Daniel Webster's office, our U.S. Congressman, we have received a legislative appropriation for street improvements and safety improvements along the whole part of 455 in the amount of $1.5 million. And that grant, just interestingly enough, we started that process 2.5 years ago and just got notification of approval, just to show you kind of the timeline through these processes and the planning time it takes. So roughly, that's, doing the math, there are approximately, $22 million worth of storm and safety and improvements that we can do down various streets in town. So when you add up all those various grants together, obviously you're in the neighborhood of $30+ million worth of improvements that we're going to do in the next 24 to 36 months. So with that, where the town, and I sat down with each of the council members and I kind of shared a spreadsheet with you. And I kind of want to explain just so everybody listening can understand the grant reimbursement process. When we get a bill in from a contractor, we have the water going or the storm going. Let's say we get a bill in for $1 million. If we get it this month, we have to wait till we get the return check. There's several things we have to do in part of that process. So basically, it gets turned in the following month to DEP for reimbursement. They take about 3 months to do the review. Then we get the reimbursement back. So that $1 million is essentially out 4+ months before we get the reimbursement generally, somewhere in that neighborhood. But then the following month, you may have both grants going. You may have another $1 million bill, another $500,000 bill. Now that money is out while you're still waiting for the return, and so on, so on. You create the cycle. So obviously with the town's small general budget and things, we can't carry that out. In fact, most towns can't. This is something that we're going to talk about that other communities like Groveland and other cities, and Morgan will kind of dig into that a little bit more. So where we're putting that is looking at getting basically, for a simpler term, a construction line of credit to help us fund this, so we're not pulling the money out of general fund, putting us in a bad position, nor do we have enough money to carry it, because there's such tight timelines when these grants have to be done. So with that said, I want to introduce Morgan French. She's from Woodward and Kern. She's, as I said, the finance grant guru and legislative appropriation guru for Florida, has been helping our town. And of course, Scott Shannon's here with Woodward and Kern to answer any general questions. So I'm going to kind of let her explain the process, how that works, let you ask questions, and I'll come back and kind of explain, how do we pay the interest and things like that.
Nice to meet you all. For the ones of you that I haven't got to meet yet, I appreciate the time.
Just a little bit closer.
Is this better?
That's better.
Okay. I appreciate you all having me this afternoon. But just to add a little bit to what Paul said, Montverde has previously been awarded a little over $30 million for various stormwater and water improvements. A lot of that money is funneled through and administered through the Department of Environmental Protection through your SOFI awards. And due to these grants being paid on a reimbursement basis, the city will likely need to consider some bridge financing, a line of credit, to cover the approximately 90 to 120 day window gap between payments to contractors and the receipt of those grant reimbursements. So what the line of credit does is it ensures that construction's not delayed, and the city does not need to tap into its own reserves or operating income while waiting on those reimbursements. So really it just helps float in between the reimbursement time. So the interim bridge financing product that most municipalities use, and what we're doing across the state of Florida for multiple communities in the same boat that Montverde's in, is we look at a line of credit or an LOC. And that's really just a short-term borrowing facility that will allow the city to draw the funds down as needed and then pay those funds back when the grant reimbursement's received. So the city would really only pay interest on the funds that are drawn at any given time, and subject to a potential small unutilized fee on an undrawn portion. That's only dependent on lenders, right? So we haven't looked at lenders yet. It just depends on what your lender requires. So it's going to be different based on which lender you go with. The LOC will likely be structured for a maximum amount to be drawn at any time, and I think Paul has went over that $8 million potential need with you all. And we would recommend that the line of credit be established as a revolving line of credit, allowing the city to repay the lender when grant reimbursements are received, and then reborrow those funds again when needed. So the way that that looks is kind of step one, you incur your expense or you receive an invoice from your contractor, you would do the line of credit draw, you would request reimbursement from the state at that point. That comes that 90 to 120 day window that we talked about. Your grant reimbursement hits your bank, you repay that line of credit, and then you draw your line of credit again, and so on and so forth to help float those invoices during construction. So I think, Paul, you had talked to them about an amount not to exceed $8 million for the line of credit? Approximately. And also one other thing that we would recommend is up to 5 years, look at least a 4-year line of credit, because as we know, you guys have federal and state funds. That means your equipment and your materials and supplies that hit the construction site have to be made in America. They have to follow those guidelines, and because of that, sometimes we see a little bit of a schedule delay. There might be change orders, things like that. So we're recommending at least a 4-year line of credit term. That way you don't have to go back out and do this process again before construction's over if you do have a delay in receiving materials and things like that. So your line of credit will need to be just the next step in the process, a junior lien in the language of your agreement, and that comes with an SRF review process, which takes a couple of weeks. So that would go kind of in the schedule. And then really other anticipated line of credit related fees that would be paid at closing would be like your bond counsel fee or your financial advisor fee, fees like that. And you can pull that from your line of credit as well. So that's the high level overview. Does anybody have any questions so far? Concerns?
I guess like 3/4 of the way through the whole thing would be the highest, the peak of how much money would be out there.
Yes, and that's where that $8 million. So Paul was able to do kind of a spend down schedule, and it looks like $8 million will be your maximum amount needed. So not that you would need to pull $8 million a month, but at your highest, most expensive month, that would be your maximum.
Yeah. And it's 4.5 interest?
So that's going to depend on your lender. So I think really the goal by the end, right now is to get the green light to utilize a financial advisor and bond counsel so that they can go out and get those quotes from the lenders, and then that way you all have the ability to review all the terms, the rates, so on and so forth, and then you can decide what's best for the town.
And that would be the kind of the purpose we're here, is to get direction as staff and as your engineers to go out to the market and utilize bond counsel that Anita's familiar with, that Woodward & Kern's familiar with, and help us work through that process. And obviously that comes back before council. You'll have to approve everything once we get the terms and the conditions, and rates obviously are fluctuating as the prime rate's been knocked down a little bit. So but we would expect, I think, between 4 and 5% would probably be a good estimate of where we would fall into that rate under current conditions.
I have a few questions. The interest rate, is that variable or is it going to be fixed for the 4 years?
So it's usually based on a variable rate.
Variable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in your experience, like when, I'm sure you've seen or been involved with some of these bonds with variable rates. Like, I guess, like, what's the fluctuation swing on those? Like, typically, like, percent, maybe 0.5%, 2%?
I would say between 1 and 2%, just previous experience.
And then just roughly, like, the setup costs. You said an LLC. Obviously, there's fees associated with the lender, the council, but what's, like, typical startup costs, I guess, just to get it going?
Yep. So typical fee for the financial advisors that we recommend is about $22,000 to $23,000, and then the fee for bond counsel is about $25,000. Now that is based on previous experience with lines of credit of this size, but as you know, each project has different caveats, and the way that they have to do things is a little bit different for every town. So, but that's around what I typically see for an $8 million.
And that's
line
due
of
up front, I assume, right, to get the process started. So
that would be what you owe them from, at closeout.
okay.
Mhm.
In regards to spikes, now, obviously it's a 90 to 120 day cycle on some of the reimbursement stuff. So I guess if you were to kind of estimate, and maybe Paul, you could jump in on this one, like, do you see this spiking a few times? If so, like, what do you estimate that the spike could be? Like, we could reach 7 million at one time that we're drawing and holding, or?
Yeah, I mean, through most of the project, I think you're going to be floating between 2 and 4.5 million out. Where we would see the spike, and I could just give an example, and it just depends how things with these multiple grants lay down. So if we have the water tower project, we'll have 3 different water bids going at once. So we'll have the water lines in the ground, the water tower going, and the LFA well going. Just because we're on a strict timeline, we're probably going to have most of those 3 going. They'll probably be staggered by 3 months. So on the water side, let's say the material cost hits for the water tower, and that's $750,000. I'm just throwing estimate number out. The LFA well would probably whole thing get drilled in a month, and that's going to be 750,000 million to pop that well in the ground. So that would be an example. Just in 1 month, you could possibly see $2 million in bills from the water side. And if it just happens to ebb and flow, that they say they do a large pavement of $500,000 on a street that's going on, we could see a $2 to $3 million month, and that's being carried while you're still getting bills in the following month, if that kind of makes sense. So it really, it's more of we're preparing for the worst, so we have the cash, which we I think from us all visiting, we feel like 8 million would cover the worst case scenario with timing if everything hit at once. But generally, you're probably going to see more of an ebb and flow between probably a couple million to 4.5 million out, up and down from there.
But either way, though, I guess we'll have to pay. So when we draw money, we pay the interest. If we don't draw the money that's still there, we still have to pay on it, right? Is that?
Well, we pay for what we have drawn out. So if we have 2 million out, we're paying the interest on the 2 million. And occasionally, what Morgan said, there's sometimes they'll charge you a small fee for the unused tap, but it's nothing like the interest rate. It'll just be like a small half point or something. Would that be fair to say, Morgan? Or do you have
Yeah,
any?
I think that would be fair to say. And not all lenders do that. Some lenders do. So it just depends on which lender you choose, if they have an unutilized fee or not.
Now, question theoretically, if these grants become unavailable in the future, then what? I don't know. Like, have we, I guess, thought that process out as to, at the end of the day, it's federal money, I assume, right? It's going to the DEP. DEP, sends it to us in the form of a grant, but then can they, I guess, pull that out from underneath us at some point in the future?
Gotcha. And I'll
Yep.
do an answer once you start, and I'll do a follow-up.
Okay. Yep. So the funds that Paul and I went over they're all under agreement. The agreement's been executed by the state. It's been executed by the town. And the money that's coming from EPA, when we talked about federal funds, it's already hit the state, and the state has budget authority over that money. So the money's there, it's allocated to Montverde, and it's under agreement. So the likelihood of that going away is slim.
And that's for the full 30 million.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. And just through the process that we go through, DEP, we've been working on what we call those facility plans, which is those high-level plans, which council's seen for the water and the storm recently. And those are under review. They approve that facility plan that's saying, yes, we're going to cover these items. So we know exactly what they're going to cover, so we know what to build. Then my understanding is now they're requiring through this process submittal plans at 30 and 100%, correct, is what I've heard recently from
30, 60, 90, and 100.
So they're going to do 3 different reviews.
Yep.
So they're going to have the complete, before it's over with, they have to approve and stamp off on the complete construction plans before we can even take them out to bid. So that gives us the guarantee they can't come back and say, well, that's not quite in the plan or the scope, because they're going to sign off on all those plans throughout the process and the step.
The department that your funds are, just to add to that your funds are being administered through, they give you a notice to proceed into construction. So when you have your design done, they'll approve it, and then you'll do your bid package. They'll approve that before it even hits the street. They'll approve your low bid contractor, and then they'll give you a notice to proceed into construction. So they have those milestones in place so that that doesn't happen.
Thank you. That's all I got for now.
how does the money work, when they start work and they hand us a bill, then we pay the bill, and then when does the clock start ticking on the interest?
So the town has two different options. So we did write a clause into the agreements that you have through SAFI that you're eligible for advance payment. So you have two options of how that can work. So you can receive a contractor invoice. I'll just throw a number out there for $1 million. You can, if you utilize advance pay, you submit that contractor invoice for $1 million for review and approval from the department. They can disperse that money to you, and you can pay that invoice at that point, and then you show them proof of payment that you paid that invoice. That's the advance pay process that you're eligible for according to your agreement. But then the traditional way is you get the invoice from your contractor, you pay that invoice, and then you request reimbursement from the department. But you have the ability to do either.
In your experience, Anita, have you seen both of those ways? Do you have anything you like better, one or the other?
I don't really get that involved in it. I believe most of the ones that I have seen, they've been the reimbursement grants or funding.
Which one would you advise?
As you go, you can kind of pick and choose. So like I said, you've got the language written into your agreement that allows it, but that doesn't mean the town ever has to do it that way. So if Paul sees that you're in a situation where cash flow is low and it's better for you to get advance payment that round, you can do that. And then next month, you can do the reimbursement round. You're not tied to either one. You can pick and choose how you do it.
Why would you pick one or the other? I don't get that.
Really, the advance pay is there is if you're having cash flow issues and you get an invoice for $1 million and maybe you only have $500,000 to spend before that payment is due to your contractor. That's why that's in place, to help alleviate some of that stress invoice to invoice. But I would suggest doing it the traditional route if you have the cash flow and the money there to do it the traditional reimbursement route, and use advance payment as you need to.
What would you think, Paul?
Yeah, and remember, we have multiple other loans, and some may require, I know the Shafi or advance pay, I'm not sure if the legislative appropriation, the Congress appropriation, so we may have to do some. But it really would be, we would look at it and see what other way minimize the interest costs for the town and still make sure we didn't have a cash flow issue going forward. So we would probably evaluate that as the bills came in and see what would be the best route to go, because we have the option throughout the process to do which one. So my goal as your manager would be obviously to minimize the interest costs and make those decisions as those bills come in to keep that moving.
It's a big number for Mount Verde. Huge. So how's it work? What's the first steps and all? We just apply for bank loans and line of credit?
So the first step would be, if you decide to give the green light, to involve the financial advisor as well as bond counsel. So bond counsel, we typically recommend NGN. I think, Anita, that you're fairly familiar with them. And then PFM for the financial advisors. The reason we recommend those two is they work really well with us on the ins and outs and the details, as well as the SRF program. They understand the programs and the agreements you already have in place with the state for these loans, and what language needs to be in your line of credit agreements to pass the stiff test, if you will, over at DEP with your other agreements. So they understand the back and forth and how to communicate that, and it typically limits a lot of confusion and schedule delays and things. So what you would do is give the green light to proceed with the financial advisors and NGN. They would get involved at that time with us as well as Paul, and they would go out, and it's typically about a 90-day process. I've seen these turned around in 60 to 90 days. So they would put out the request on the street, and then the lenders would come back with all the terms that they're willing to offer, the rates, whether or not they're going to do a utilization fee, all of the details, right? And at that point, we would all reconvene and decide what's the best deal for the town. Once you choose the best deal, you would then go into closing, and that looks like an agreement with the lender, a resolution, and all the documentation that comes along with that for council approval.
And just so everybody's clear on the terminology, so bond counsel is specialized attorneys that generally deal with muni bonds. There's a lot of federal state requirements that have to go into loan applications to be in compliance with DEP. I assume it would be a tax exempt bond.
Yes.
So, doing a tax exempt, there's a lot of federal guidelines that actually have to go into the language. So usually bond counsel, they're specialized, and that's really all they do. And then the financial advisors, they're the ones who go out and market that paper that the bond counsel creates to negotiate with the lenders or put it on the street, and basically sometimes they auction off or do a private placement where they go to ones they've known they've gotten good rates from, just recent past experiences, and they'll get us, basically give us a couple options from different lenders and try to get us the best rate. So that's the purpose of them. So that they're specialized people, both working for us in the best interest of the town going forward. So they're not necessarily your bond counsel, and your financial advisor isn't their interest or financial interest is we're looking out for the town and getting the best deal, and not looking out for them, basically, as you go through the process.
Question, can the lender come back and say, we can't do 8 million, we could only do 5? Like, I assume they have to take a look at, obviously, our cash flow, and, or is it, I guess, like, what's the parameters around that, the lending actual?
Yep. So
Administrative
if
side.
they're not willing to do the full 8 million, typically they will not respond to the request. So you wouldn't get their terms or anything like that back. We see a lot of these types of bridge financing and LOCs across the state. And for what these lenders that we're talking about are used to, this one is very small. I know it's a large amount for Montverde, but I typically see these anywhere from 15 to 30, $35 million lines of credit. So I don't see that being an issue.
Question
Yeah.
for you, Paul.
Yes.
Just theoretically, if the bond wasn't available, or if they just don't respond, then what?
We probably want to be able to do either of the projects in full. We would probably put the water tower up and stop. I mean, I don't think we would have the cash flow to run them. We could try to do some bits and pieces, but there's no way we could handle the cash flow. I mean, our total, we look at our general fund that we have is, roughly, 1.5 to 2 million average floating up and down of available cash. And, we have, 3.5 of restricted funds generally. So we're around $5 million. We just, even if we could maybe try to squeak it, we got to be prepared to town if we have an emergency or something happens. We got to be able to respond to that. And this is very typical. I think Groveland's recently done one, or there's some neighboring towns who worked here around here recently, so it's a very typical product.
Yeah, Groveland had to do this same process last year, and theirs was a $15 million need over there. And like I said, we do them in Lake County, Alachua County, Manatee County, really just across the state. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier that I think is an important note is if construction is done, or we decide to stop earlier than expected before a 4 or 5 year term, you can repay your line of credit and close it out early without penalty. So there's not an additional cost to the city if you decide to close out early.
From your experience, I guess, obviously, since you deal with these type of things, what could be some drawbacks? Like, what can you, or what have you seen that are negatives or just drawbacks in general for doing bonds?
So I actually haven't seen any and I hate to even say it this way. I hate that I can't come up with one. These have been really a lifesaver for a lot of the communities that we work with, because they have, just like you guys, they have multiple capital improvement projects moving forward at one time. And the harm to them was not getting the line of credit in place quick enough or early enough, because that's when they had major cash flow issues waiting on grant reimbursement for 90 to 120 days. And those things we can only move those so fast through a state process, right? So where a lot of our community said, man, I wish we would have agreed to do this sooner, because it takes a lot of the stress off of the city as a whole, city staff, finance, trying to keep those things afloat. And, you got to keep in mind that you have contractors that you sign contracts with and agreements with that say you're going to pay us within 30 days. And sometimes, like Paul said, if you don't have an advance payment or you don't have the cash flow that you need to float those invoices, sometimes you don't meet that 30-day window, and then that just sets the town up for maybe even a legal ramification if you don't pay those on time. It stops your construction, it causes delays, and it's just a domino effect at that point. So just not doing it early enough is the only thing that I've really heard from other clients.
Thank you.
And I believe last year there was a state statute for payment of contractors where it has to be 30 days unless there's a protest or something along that line, if I recall. Does that sound right, Anita?
Yeah, under the Florida Prompt Payment Act or local act, they've distinguished between construction project repayment and non-construction related, and there's a time period that we have to comply with in the statute. And for construction, it's 30.
Yeah. Otherwise, they can assess penalties on the town going forward.
I don't know if I need to address that I'm here, but I'm here.
Oh, we got you.
You got me here now? Okay. Question, and I apologize if this was asked earlier, but why not use advance pay for everything and not take bonds out at all?
So you still are going to have that same schedule issue. So your very first advance pay draw, you can take just that invoice, submit for advance pay, and you get it back. However, before you can submit for your second advance pay, two different things kind of go into that schedule. One is, with the agreements you have in place, you are only allowed to receive one reimbursement or advance payment per month per project. So they will not even look at another reimbursement request until that month time frame is up. So you still have that goes negative against the schedule. And then on top of that, before you can submit for your second advance payment, you have to gather proof of payment, create from the previous advance pay, create that reimbursement request, and it still goes through the same review process, the same steps. If it's over a certain amount of money, which during construction they will be, it'll hit a second review at the department. And so you're still looking at basically that 90 to 100 day turnaround to receive it, even if it's advance pay. So
Morgan, maybe just to clarify, DEP uses that advance payment provision not to pay everybody. They've got millions and they got billions of dollars out at any given time, so they're not in the business of fronting all those payments. It's in there as a provision to help out municipalities when they find themselves in a cash flow situation. So it's not something that we can, even though the provision is in there, we can use those from invoice to invoice as needed. And certainly, I think the opportunity is to do that to eliminate what you might otherwise have to borrow, even though it's all very short term. You can't lean on that to like have it advance pay every invoice over the cost of the construction project.
Okay. And then one other question, I guess, is why didn't we bring this up, the financial aspect, before we took the grants on? Like, we knew we were going to, I'm assuming we knew we were going to have to go down the road for bonds or some form of payment. We should have maybe, why didn't we discuss that beforehand?
Sure. I mean, the grants are fairly new. Part of us, we're kind of getting into a time crunch because of all the DEP delays, where now that we're kind of seeing what schedule we got left, when we first got these, we were having a 3+ year time frame, I think, to build minimum, which we could have spread the projects out a little further. We still may have needed something. We just didn't know what we would need or what they would look like. We're getting to the approval process through that, but it's just the sheer number that we have. And even as of last week, we just got another $1.5 million for the town, and, which is almost half of our general budget. We just received a new one. So that, they've been piling in, I guess, the money coming in through the process.
So it's fair to say that the timeline for completion shrunk Because
Most definitely. I mean, we probably would still need it. We just didn't know what we needed at the time or how we'd gone. You know, we could have, you know, under ideal circumstance, been nice to do the water tower, then nice to do this. You know, but the timeline is getting shorter and shorter, which means we're going to have multiple projects going at once. We're going to work on trying to get some extensions to that, being it's DEP delays, but you know, a lot of it's federal money with a lot of strings attached to it. So, sorry, go ahead.
one other question. I think Brian may have asked this one as well. I'm not sure. But so if we don't go the bond route, the option at that point is we don't do the project, or are we gonna have to figure out another way to pay for it? I guess.
I mean, you would just have to pick and choose what you want to do. I would say in retrospect, you know, I'm going to go back to the Kimberly Horn study of 2017, which was way before my time. At the time, I think they identified $8.5 million of projects that our water system needed to do to be compliant looking forward, just because we got water to serve our citizens. We're short on fire flows, and we're also got aging systems going on. So that 8.5, if you look at it back then in 17, is now $14 million. So if we're having that conversation under a normal circumstance, and I will say Groveland, Masca, half of the cities out there, because we have a great team, Woodward and Kern, we got 100% of this cost covered except for the interest to carry it. The best under any scenario, especially the town of Montverde has one of the highest household incomes in the area. 50% grant is probably normal for the last 30 years a town our size would ever get an SRF, 50% loan, 50% max. So we probably right now, honestly, if this team wasn't here, our conversation would be, let's take out a permanent 30-year $6 to $8 million loan as a town to fund our water system and triple our water rates, because that's where the town would have been at right now, honestly.
Paul, can I add to that?
Please.
So one thing that we're seeing, especially in the federal and state markets when it comes to stormwater and water grants and loans, the ability for a town, especially one with the demographics of Montverde, to get this size of capital improvement projects on water and stormwater 100% grant paid for, or at least a $20 million here and a $13 million there, it is almost unheard of. These funds that you have, these are supplemental appropriations through EPA, which means they're not recurring. So you're not going to see a cycle with this much budget unless another natural disaster comes and really affects the town. So just something to keep in mind, that these grant monies are not recurring. So if you do not move forward and decide to give the grant back, it's not something that you're going to have the opportunity to obtain later on.
And I know it is a big number for the town. We were facing this number without an off ramp, and we're in great position as a town. I mean, as leaders and council members, you've got this town in a great spot to move forward. And I want to spend a moment and kind of talk about, once that line is set up, what does that look like for us as a town? Because obviously we want to make sure that council knows what's going on, how the things are tracked, everybody knows what's going on. So long as there's no issues. So generally my past experiences, we would set this up in a clearinghouse account, so a separate checking account that probably would be with the bank that has the loan. And as we get the payment or in the draw, they would put that money in the account. We would pay it out of that checking account. Then when the money comes back from DEP, it would be direct deposit right back into that account to pay. So basically there will be a separate account where you as council will have the opportunity to track everything that goes in, everything that goes out, and it'll be a separate check register basically for you to look at. So that doesn't mix it up with all of our other general funds and things along that line, which I like for this type of loan, and gives a direct deposit point in that. We have, as a town, we are in a great spot to have the funds for repayment of the interest without tapping into our general funds. A few months ago, I shared with you a PowerPoint on our water system, a few years ago, where general fund was helping supplement the water system, and then it had a kind of a negative balance going back maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It was just kind of run for break even was the goal. And most of this is, from Willow Ridge development and other development as we've done the development and they have paid meter fees and the hookup fees and now that our water system has more people on it, it's become um, better able to handle cash flow going out. But we now have from a zero 6 to 7 years ago, we have a $1.9 million cash balance in our water system. And we've been planning from 5 years ago to get to this point, so we have the funds to do something like this for repayment. So we do have that cash balance of 1.9 million. When the council approved the development for the Bella Clina development, the developers agreed to contribute $200,000 to the LFA well. For them, it wasn't for the LFA, it was toward a reuse water system. That LFA well is a part of our water system. That 200,000 they're going to contribute is basically what we need to cover most, the interest for a couple of years. So we have the cash on the water side. On the street side, and this goes back to 2 years ago when we started this grant. We were starting to have that conversation with the Osgood, and we knew they were going to have to put some streets in to do the streets. So kind of some foresight on all of our part, we included Kirkland, 8th and 9th Street in the stormwater grants. And you as a council asked the developers to contribute $1.5 million to safety improvements for 8th, 9th, and Temple Street. Well, some of those improvements are handled by the grants, so we are able to they're able to contribute that safety money over to the interest payments for these. So we have interest payments to handle this where we're not touching our existing general fund money is what I'm getting at to the council. So really over the last few years, you as a council and with your staff, I think we've set ourselves up in a great position where we can move forward and really for a town our size, I mean, let's think about what do we got, a $2 million general budget? We're going to do $35 million worth of improvements over the next 2 years because we have all the other grants. Remember, we got 4 or 5 million other grants that we're cycling through right now. Porter's going to start here in the next week or two. So, I mean, it's a tremendous opportunity for our community to move forward. And this is $35 million of stuff at some point we would have had to fund. It's really going to give us a 25, 30-year life cycle from new stormwater to streets. I shared with Mr. Borgnelli, I think Mr. Roberts, a couple weeks ago. They were in my office, and as we look at these stormwater projects, we still are required under the BMAP every year to submit projects to reduce our loads into Lake Apopka. It is a requirement. And I have an email from DEP because I wanted some clarity, and they were very clear. And if we don't keep working on these projects, they're going to give us a number and allocation what they're going to force us to do. So we have funding to do these projects for the next 3 years and say, look what we're doing. In other cities, what did you do? We're going to probably do more in the BMAP for contributions of load reductions than probably all the surrounding cities here for the next little bit with these stormwater projects. So it puts us in great place because if we don't do those load reductions, they're going to give us a TP and a TN reduction limit, and we're going to be back in the whole septic sewer conversation again. And this is pushing that off.
Yeah, what you're leaving out is that our tank that's in the air is 30 years old. It's on the decline now, even though we do maintenance unbelievable on it, and they give you so much time to use the tank. Ours is coming to its end of its life.
Yeah, it is. It's 30 years old, so we're going to be able to repave streets, get new sidewalks, get stormwater. We've had our citizens come in recently, as council knows. We have growth going in Florence Lake. We have growth going to Franklin Pond. We're currently treating 4 lakes. So all of these projects contribute to those in Lake Apopka for our water quality standards on the storm side, street repavements. On the water side, Mayor, you mentioned it, that tank is 30 plus years old, and we're going to be able to get a new tank. We're going to have redundancy in the system, and you've all heard enough, and that's next on the conversation a little bit is the CUP. DEP has said you need alternative water supply. Either you hook a water line up to every residence from Lake Apopka at some point in the future, at least start making plans to it, or hit an LFA well. and obviously LFA wells, we got it 100% grant covered.
What do
And-
we need to finish tonight, though, for this?
I just, we need direction if the council is okay for staff to move forward, because we got to take this is part of the process. So we need direction as your staff to go ahead and move forward and get the numbers and get the agreements and bring them to you guys back in resolution and ordinance form for approval.
I have one question yet, and that is, with everything that's going on with, what happens if we don't get paid back? I guess that's a concern for me. Like,
Paid back from DEP?
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think Morgan addressed that a little bit earlier. The grants are written, the money's there, the money's only for Montverde. Throughout the process, DEP, they approve the facility plan. They can approve the construction plans at 3 phases, up to 100%. They stamp and seal those and say you can construct it to this. So long as we construct it to plan, then the money's ours.
So it's not gonna be like the FEMA situation, right, where we're out that money, we're waiting for them to pay us back or anything like that.
Yeah, so this is actually designated money that is ours. So it basically is no difference as you as council set a budget and say, town manager, this is the money you could spend to buy the pickup truck this year. I know the money's there. I can buy it when I need to buy the pickup truck. DEP is saying, this is your money, Montverde. You comply, make sure it meets this guidelines, and you can go buy it. And that's basically Morgan kick in there.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit. Actually, I'll just give an example. I think that will help. So, for example, when we hit design of your water system improvements, before the town signs a task order and agrees to give a notice to proceed into the design phase for stormwater, for example, DEP says you have these funds and you are approved to move into design and you are approved to get 100% reimbursed through the design phase and design closeout. And then, so they've already approved that before you even start design. And then at the end of design, they're going to close design out and they are going to review the design. They're going to approve it. They're going to review and approve your bid package that you put on the street. That'll come back. They're going to review and approve the contractor that you select. And then they will give you a notice to proceed into construction, saying you are allowed to use these funds for construction of this project that was planned and designed and approved by us. And then during construction, DEP has inspectors that come out and they inspect your job site all throughout the process so that they can make sure it's being constructed to plan and specs. And they will say, hey, we need to reroute here if they see something out of the ordinary. But there's all those milestones for review and approval placed throughout so that you know you have the ability to move into the next phase and get your money back. That's why they have those in place.
Last question, promise. So there's no chance that we don't get repaid?
I believe, yeah, the answer is, yeah, there's no chance we don't get repaid.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, I mean, we've already been approved for the facility plan design, and we've been getting reimbursed for facility plan design on both projects. So we're already receiving our money from it because we've gotten approved for that. So once they approve the facility plan, they approve the design, then we get the design reimbursed. And so it's kind of a stepstone process with them.
Can we build a swimming pool for the kids and call that extra water for the house?
Stormwater.
All right, I guess, is everybody okay with them moving forward?
I had a quick question, Paul.
Yes.
I know you printed this out and you went
Mhm.
over it before.
Yes.
Just curious, so estimating 2 to 3 million basically being drawn at one time. It fluctuates somewhere between 17,000 in interest all the way to 32,000 per month in interest. Now,
Correct.
is this interest, and I guess to clarify, is this interest being paid from those grants, or is it?
No, the interest will not, the grants do not cover any of the interest. So that's what I talked about, our cash fund that we have for the water system and the LFA well, and what we're going to be getting from the project by the lake. So yeah,
What's the total for that?
it depends on how much you have out on each time. So the spreadsheet, and that's what we have to kind of get at the next stage, is really get those terms of the interest rate. the spreadsheet I did for you was to kind of show you how worst case scenario would look, not how often things would look. Because I think you're
talking about
gonna,
how much money he has, he just said.
To pay the interest.
yeah.
How much money do we have to pay the interest with? 2 million, I think it is?
Yeah, I mean, right now, and with the 200,000 we'll have coming in from Bella Clean on the water side, you know, we have 2.1 in cash reserves to do that on the interest side, and we'll have on the street side 1.5 coming, on the storm side 1.5 coming in on the Osgood property side.
And he was trying to explain where the 1.5 came from and the other 2 million, but it's there. You know.
I think it's important to point out too, when we get that far, we'll be able to model that. I mean, we'll know, with the, the best and most recent information that we have on the cost of construction, the timeline for construction, to be able to model how much you might be out at any given time and for what duration, using that and the, the offers you may get in terms of or even that, or just assumptions we can make in terms of what the terms of those financing is. We'll be able to get you a better idea of what that cost is. So that's all part of what we would be doing next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Okay.
Carol?
So I guess like to communicate with the lender, does that cost money? I guess to basically go to them, hey, we want to borrow $8 million. Does that cost money? Just that interaction?
Yeah, so that's what the financial advisor will do. So they go out and market it to the different banks because it is a specialized product. Is that correct there?
Yeah.
So that's at 25,000. I think she mentioned approximately.
Yep, that's correct. And you, at closing, you can pay that however you wish, but most communities just make the initial payment with the line of credit.
So if it comes back to council to finalize it and vote on it, and we vote no, we still have to pay the 25K.
I wouldn't say, so I can't speak for them. They're a third party. I'm not PFM and I'm not NGN, but you wouldn't have to pay that full amount. You would have to pay for their services to date, and that is the very front end of the process. So the bulk of their work would come after you decide to move forward with the agreement and things like that. So you wouldn't have that full amount to pay, but you would owe them something, but I can't speak to what you would owe them if you decide not to move forward.
And I assume we'll be able to find out what that is, just to know before going, I guess, 100%. And
Yeah, we can bring that back as an informational item to council if you wish. That's a conversation that if we are given the green light to take that first step with PFM, we can have kind of an internal call with Paul and ask that question to get you an exact number if you decide not to move forward past the initial.
And I think summarizing just what Morgan said, we're looking at probably around a $50,000 cost of issuance total, somewhere in that ballpark. Say 65,000 max would for sure cover it.
Yes.
That would be the cost of issuance. We're out. From other communities that are in the area, we're looking at more than likely between a 4 and 5% rate. We're going to try to get the best rate, and likely a 4-year term. So those are going to be your general terms that we would probably come back with somewhere in that range is what our goal would be. Not to say it'll be that, the world could change, the dollar could crash, you never know in today's world. But, most bond market Mooney stuff is kind of slow moving and fairly stable. And it's probably at the higher end, and it's been in many years.
All righty. Is everybody okay with moving forward? Anybody not okay? You guys okay with moving forward?
That initial 50K, is that included in the grant, or do we have to pay for that out of pocket?
No, the town will have to pay that.
So more or less $250,000 to $300,000 potentially out of the town's pocket. I know you said that we have the money set aside from developers to use for the interest, but to access about $32 million.
Correct.
Okay.
You okay moving forward? Sure. Brian?
Sure.
Alrighty. Move on to the consumption use permit. Thank you for coming, Morgan.
I want to just give the council a quick update. We're continuing to work on our consumptive use permit, and I have them here just to answer any questions if you got anything. We recently, they've changed our project manager. It seems to be the theme going forward. And FEMA, we just changed our sixth one this week, so that's been fun. So the process is working. They've been communicating with us. We're starting work and design on the LFA well to try to get all the information we need for the LFA well. I know in the past, couple of council members had a few little questions about the LFA well and kind of what that looks like, and I just was going to real briefly go over that and have Scott jump in or see if you have any questions. But our water right now is from the upper Floridian aquifer, and that is the one that's over tapped according to DEP in St. John's. So they're not really giving any other allocations. We know at some point in the future we're going to exceed our allocation that we have for the UFA well. Our town uses a lot more water per house than what St. John allows. And, you know, there is it 125 or 115 now, Scott, the per house? Or one, I think it's 125 with a goal of 115, right? Yes, gallons per day. And, you know, we float anywhere between 145 and 165 depending on the year. And part of that is we have larger lots and they get more water in our town, where, you know, communities that have apartment buildings, those all count as a dwelling unit. So they required in the CUP for us to come up with a plan to get an alternative water supply. The lower Floridian aquifer, because it's not overtapped, meets that need. Woodward and Kern has drilled several of them in the area, have some experience with them. There's kind of a process. Once they hit it, they kind of go up and down an aquifer till they get the sweet spot with the good water. Results have shown some water has been better than UFA well, some has been not as good, but, you know, all basically pretty darn close. So the water quality is not necessarily, you know, an issue that people have been experiencing in this general part. There's been some LFA wells in other areas that have not had good water, but we're still in a very good spot of the state. The point is, when we put this well in, it's not our primary well. It's going to be blended at a rate, and even under worst case scenario, our UFA wells will be the primary water source. And what would happen is, if we are short, let's say 15%, the UFA wells will still run, but we will just slightly blend in some LFA water into the system at a slow rate. So it's really mixed in at a low. It's not going to be the LFA comes on for 3 days and that's all we're drinking kind of thing. So it'll be a short kind of blend period where we go through. So from aesthetics taste, it should be very minimal from town tasting. It could be better. It could be a little bit of a different, maybe iron or something, but it should be good water. And Scott?
Yeah, so just to clarify, we don't drill the wells, but we do specify what is needed where, and would prepare a bid package for somebody to come in and do that. But just to provide some perspective and to support what Paul just said, so we recently did this from Mascot. They drilled 2 lower Florida aquifer wells to increase the water supply from what was before that just 2 upper Florida aquifer wells like you guys have now. And then over time, those have been blended into the treatment operation right now. And there was, in their case, I think we're getting ready to do the same thing, or Groveland is getting ready to do the same thing. All of these are sort of driven by the water management district requirements. But in Mascot's case, those are operational now, and they required 0 impact to water quality and 0 change to their treatment process. So we've got some water quality data from other lower Florida aquifer wells around the way, and of course, you know, that doesn't guarantee that you put it in one spot and there won't be, but we've got good indications that the water quality and what we're looking at is good. And so that was the recommendation, because it also, as Paul pointed out, will help to satisfy the alternative water supply provision in what's expected to be your new consumptive use permit. The Water Management District is requiring that everybody investigate and explore alternative water sources, because the upper Florida aquifer is the one that's the most stressed. So they don't want to see any additional withdrawals in this part of the state coming from that. So they're driving everybody to other water sources, and this was by far and away the easiest one for Montverde to meet, given your location and the lack of any large surface water supply source that is feasible in this part of the county. Not to treat to drinking water standards, no.
When did we become overtapped? I guess, like, when was that deemed?
We're not overtapped right now. in it's more of a planning down the future will be overtapped. We actually in our last CUP we had 20 years ago, and that's kind of we got dinged a little bit. St. John's put in there that the town should start planning for an alternative water supply or a reuse water supply as a condition of the permit. I don't think we ever did that as a town. I think we did a study, so we did some, but now they're saying come up with one with an alternative water supply. So if we will have a shortage of allocation going forward for the water supply, and I think it hits in about 10 or 15 years when you did the thing.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the reason we are having to renew the permit now isn't because you need more water than the existing permit allows, is because the permit just, the date of it expired. And so every time you go through a renewal process, so they make you justify the water that you're using. If you weren't using nearly what was in the permit, they would look to reduce that. We're not talking about doing that right now. We're obviously trying to set you guys up for the water supply that you need for the foreseeable future, hopefully 20 years. But in going through the process and renewing that for even not an additional drop of water, the water management district is requiring all these studies to justify even what you have already, not necessarily what you need to add.
Do we have a general idea where like the lower well's gonna go?
Oh, the lower wells are already in the ground.
Oh,
so yeah, those are done. We're going to drill another redundant one, but we don't get a new allocation for that.
The upper Florida, is that you?
Yeah. Or the LF, you mean the LFA
Yeah.
well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now we're exploring putting it over by the butterfly garden area, somewhere around the Public Works butterfly garden area. So they're doing that look in that direction. It may have to go a little further toward Public Works or the other well. We're looking at that now, but that tank that we had put in that we got donated, so that'll be a blending tank for the chlorine and mix from there as we go forward. The other thing that kind of kicked in, so I guess there's two things that St. John's identified why they wanted us to get an alternative water supply. The first thing is just more of is our planning. At some point we're going to exceed our allocation we have, but the bigger problem that we had is the per house pumping is higher than what the state allows. And, kind of comes back is the state wants the goal, I believe, to be 115 with a limit of 125. And we're constantly in the 140, even up to the 160 gallons a day per household range. So we're constantly exceeding. So they're like, you need to have that. And it's mainly because, if we have a large lot, people water the yards. That's the big kicker. So that's why they kind of look where you need to come up with those alternative water supplies. So even if we didn't have another house built, we're going to have that requirement, because I think that was more of a kicker on our CUP was, why are you guys allowing more water per house?
It's a bigger lot.
Well, yeah, correct. Yeah, we don't have, I would think a town, like our neighbors Mineola, who have 5 to 6 homes per acre, there's a lot of concrete there and not much to water, but each one of those counts as an individual unit. Then they have apartment buildings, all those count as an individual unit. We have 1/3, half our town is RMD, which is medium density, three homes per acre, and the other half is 2 homes per acre. So as you look at that, those are big lots compared to everywhere else in the state of Florida.
So Willow Ridge helps us with this problem because they're smaller lots.
Yes, yeah, Willow Ridge does. Yeah, if we did true half-acre lots, there would be more water on the ground without doubt.
Wouldn't the grass that we put down makes a difference too?
It does, yeah. Going from Bahia to St. Augustine helps. Less water.
Going the opposite way, right?
Or the other way. Sorry. I should say that correctly. So yeah, I mean, and we've had, in fact, we had to submit into, as a part of this process. They've asked for our development codes on what we allow for, amount of sod we put down on the lots. In fact, I've seen some communities are going down to less than 65%. We're 55, I believe, in that neighborhood. So they're looking at all this stuff. They just gave us the grant, the $10,000 grant to put smart sprinklers on, because it's an issue for St. John's for this upper Floridian aquifer.
Can you clarify like the whole blending thing? Like what was like the full reasoning for the blending the water?
Yeah, and what we currently do in our system is very similar. We rotate through the wells, and so the tank up there's, is it 150,000 gallon? I think that's right, 150. Then we're going to put a 325, 350 in, And so just to keep the wells healthy, we rotate all the wells through the 2 wells. They go back and forth. So this will be added to that system. It'll more likely be on a VFD. So we're still doing the UFA wells because I think we got some of the best water in the state of Florida. Just absolutely love it. You know, you go to Cape Coral and drink the swimming pool or go to Orange County, you know, it's just nasty stuff. So what we want to do is still keep our UFA as our primary. Then we'll have a variable frequency drive. Then as we have a need to add water, it's gonna put a little bit of water in at a time versus just switching to that well. You know, that's kind of the goal of how we want to set it up. So, you know, you'll have 80% of UFA water in there and 20% of LFA well, you know, on the worst given days, probably during the summertime, things like that. We're also setting that LFA well to kind of meet that reuse water supply. In the design, I challenge Scott's teams to allow us to have a valve or a mixing valve or get it approved through St. John's where we could take that direct water out of the lower fluoridating aquifer because it's considered reuse and use where that location is. We'll be able to use that water in our parks and on our playgrounds. And if the council eventually somewhere down the road wants to allow that water to be secondary piped to houses for reuse water, which would be a little bit cheaper, we have that option. And that also will cut down on our usage, that gallons that we spend per household. So we're trying to create a good long-term plan there for the town that if they come back 20 years from now and say, you're going to have to cut it below 100, you have an option as a town.
So we have 2 wells right now we're using. We're going to dig a deeper one over here by the Butterfly Park.
Correct.
And those 3 are going to be operating, but we really have 4 wells and one's closed up there on the hill.
Yeah, and we're still going to build our secondary redundant well by the existing tower just so we have that water has a lot of flow per minute and it's great. So we want a secondary redundant in case we had a lightning strike or something like that. So we'll have 3 good operating wells in town. Oh, excuse me, 4.
4.
Yeah, 4 good operating wells in town. So we'll have a lot of redundancy on the system.
And we'll have the one in Willow Ridge that's capped. I mean, the one in Hillside that's capped.
Yeah, that's just a smaller well. Yeah, it was just a 5-inch well, so it really wouldn't produce
But
much.
it could backfill if we needed it to. Right?
Yeah.
So with the 325 and the 150 tanks, we would have a day and a half worth of water, 2 days worth of water.
Oh, easily, yeah.
So if something went down, we'd have 2 days to fix it at worst.
Yeah, I think we can almost, well, it depends on the time of year. If it's heavy water season, you know, we're a little better in a day on the one we have.
Today would be a lot less.
Yeah,
less water.
yep. And part of the requirements is, again, we have plenty of water for drinking and for our irrigation, but we also have to count under the administrative code of DEP is fire flows. And so we have to calculate 1,500 gallons per minute for 2 hours plus our heaviest use going out to all of our residents. So if we have a fire event, so that's what we plan toward or plan to build toward.
So what'd you need us to do on this one?
I just want to see if you have any questions for the engineers while they're here.
Anybody? Brian? Grant? Carol?
Okay.
Joe, you okay? All right, well,
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Good day.
tell
Good evening.
everybody home I said hi.
Thank you. No, you guys head on home, please. Come on up, yes.
Okay, so we're going to move to the discussion on the playground. It was nice seeing you again.
Thank you. You can just pull another chair up closer if you want to. Okay. I'll let you guys jump right in. We want to chat about the playground a little bit.
Pull your microphone up. Turn it on.
Put it on, pull it up, talk loud. Okay, we got a proposal for a playground. Kalina made copies for y'all so you can see it. This is where we are, but I got some news when I walked in the door. So just, okay. I sat in the park, so we got money. We were told design a playground. To start it off, I sat in the park and I asked the children that were using the park what their favorite item was, because I wanted to make sure I was incorporating what our kids in our town that were at our park, that are using it, what they wanted. And I got a lot of different feedback, but the main things I took from it was most of the equipment we have now is for toddlers and the lower end, so they wanted higher slides. They would love the climbing equipment, they love the roping equipment, so we wanted to incorporate and keep some of the climbing elements. And then I got from some of the older kids that the swings are all for toddlers and they don't have anywhere to swing. So we wanted to add bigger swings. And we also wanted to make it, the biggest thing that we started out with was we wanted it ADA compliant. So what we came up with was multiple different designs. We came up with this with bigger swings, ADA compliant swings, larger slides, more climbing equipment. We also were trying to stay within a budget, but we were wanting to use the PIP, which is the plastic rubber on the bottom. We did some research on that. We went back and forth with, we currently have mulch. When you have the mulch, you have to pull it out every 2 to 3 years and replenish it. There's a lot of upkeep and maintenance costs of that. So while the PIP is way more expensive than the mulch, it has, that 10 to 15 year life and a lot more easier to maintain for our staff. So then our next thing was like, okay, we had so much money, we were over budget, how are we going to make this work? So we decided to come up with a sponsor system. So we were asking, we want to go forward and maybe ask Advent Health or just some local companies, Kiwanis, if anybody wants to get involved, to try to help sponsor our park. So that was our last meeting, and that pretty much brings us to here is like, where do you want to go moving forward? Do you want us to put out an RFP? Do you want us to keep trying to get sponsors? What's council want?
More money is great.
Yeah.
we like, so we do have 150,000 in the general budget, and where that money came from, council a few years ago, as we collect any fees from fines from code enforcement, council wanted those funds to be used for something that benefits the public in the area. So that's where the general budget money came from, the 150. Then we also have 92,000 in impact fee money. So there was about a $30,000 gap on that. And so we reached out. Actually, Sandy has reached out to Advent, and they're running up through their administrative to see if they would maybe pitch in 25 or something along that line, or whatever they would, just to kind of fill that gap in. And I know you have a question. If I could just a few more minutes, I just want to throw something else out. As I was contemplating this and looking at our playground, our existing playground in the park is over 25 years old, and I know as our insurance company comes in, they're always kind of doing this, fix that kind of thing, and it's getting aged. And when we contemplated this at the last time, we contemplated just putting a secondary playground in, kind of away from that one, but just sitting here today, literally just thinking about is maybe as a council and staff, maybe we think a little bit bigger and look at taking the existing playground we have, which is in a great spot under the trees in the center of the area, because it's going to need to be replaced in the next few years. Maybe we just do one good big playground that meets all the ADA guidelines and keep it in the same spot. It will cost more. We have the funds for it. We have more impact fee fund money coming in. So I want to throw that idea out as you consider this.
Well, that was one of the original concerns before, which is that doing a canopy, if I remember correctly, it was a canopy. So if we were to take the old one out, put the new one in, we wouldn't need a canopy, so there would be savings somewhere. I mean, we wouldn't need a canopy then.
Well, on this quote, we did take the canopy out because that was requested by council and by Paul because of hurricane winds. If it hit over 70 miles, that had to be taken down. So it's just one more thing we'd have to do. So this proposal we took them out, but you're right, because that is such a completely shaded area, there would be no need for any canopies if we did move it.
I did, for whatever it's worth. I mean, it can just go back in general fund, but you guys know our current balance is around 5 million in that thing. Sandy said she just got a verbal approval that the final hurdle cleared for our first step of FEMA, which is the tree cleanup removal of about $180,000. Is going to be on its way in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So just good news. So more money coming in, just that could be something you could look at putting over here if you wanted to, just as a thought.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense that we're gonna have to replace that stuff in 2-3 years anyway. Take it out and replace it all with brand new and under the trees and save the money on the canopy, in my opinion.
It would also save money. At our last meeting, we discussed phase 1, phase 2. I think our committee is pretty adamant. We've been working on this for 2.5 years, that this money's been set aside. It's time to get the project going. So if we go in that direction and not do 2 phases, if we go back and get a new proposal, 1 phase, the port, it will save money in the long run because you're not bringing in the construction trucks twice, the dump trucks twice, the clearing trucks twice. It will save money a lot. And with the PIP, which is the pour in place, to do 1 huge solid area and not do 1 and then having to come back and do it again, it would save thousands.
What's that made of, the floor?
It is, it's called, pour in place, it's a safety surfacing, and it's the one that is, I don't know what EPDM stands for, but it is all ADA compliant, and so it's very easy for wheelchairs to go on. Yeah.
And I'm just thinking of 175-year oak drops a branch on it. What's it do to it?
Oh, I think,
like a kid, it would bounce off of it.
yeah, I think it's pretty,
Can you repair
resilient.
it? Can you repair it if it gets damaged?
I will have to ask
Well,
them
I
that,
don't
yeah.
know.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Like
I
the tree
assume it
idea,
would.
but it can have
Mhm.
damages from high winds.
Mm.
You know.
Will this satisfy small children and the medium, I guess I'm all medium-sized children that you mentioned?
Sorry. If we go the new route, we would have to do more design work because this phase was designed for the 5 to 12-year-olds, the older kids, the bigger slide because we already had the younger area. But if we're gonna tear that out, we'd have to redesign a little bit. We'd have to
Right, we're starting
go
over.
back to the drawing board.
Which is okay.
If that's what you want, that's what we'll
Is-
do. But
I mean,
Well,
to
you
know
know.
we're gonna
Yeah.
get one great big park and not just a half of a great park
hodgepodge.
would sounds better to me.
it might be better. I don't know.
And really what the process would look like at this point is I would send it out as a request for proposals. And what we would do, I have the vision committee come up with all the elements that they want in there. So, you know, whatever, a slide that's 4 feet tall for ages, a tall one for this side with some flexibility, then I would let the companies come back. You know, we'll have the ADA, this and that, you know, swing set. I'll let the companies come back with their stuff that they would recommend on that proposals, and you can kind of go through them with their pricing on it, and that gives you a little bit more flexibility. So you can choose you know, you don't necessarily have to choose the cheapest amount. You can choose the best price one that has everything you want it with the best quality, and that would be the way to probably proceed. So I would redirect them from design over to tell me what elements. We'll put that proposal out to all these companies, and then you get some formal quotes and bids for the council to move forward.
You'll bring a number back for it?
Of course, yeah, it's at the limit. I have to, and plus it'll require a budget amendment if we go forward with it. So I'll
Yeah.
bring it back to council for approval and budget amendment.
What do you guys think about under the trees? What do you think the committee's gonna say?
Our committee's here.
Oh,
Most of
There's
it's
4 of
here.
us.
what do you say?
I'm sorry, just because we're recording.
I was mentioning that the canopy was important to me, obviously, for sun protection, but I can also appreciate Paul's position being, you know, a staff member here that's responsible for the physical equipment and thinking about the frequency of hurricanes in Central Florida. So I understood both sides of the argument, changing the project scope a little bit and still having it underneath the trees, but trying to maybe widen the scope of what's included to satisfy the needs of the littles and then the kids like my son who's 11 to feel like there's a place where he can play. We go to Cherry Lake Park in Groveland very often. We love it, but I would love for us to be able to have a park in our own town that I can take them to, that, you know, we can bring our friends with their little ones and for them to feel safe, but my son also feel like he can have a good time. So I'm excited about taking the project in a new direction, and certainly I'm taking Paul's guidance super seriously since he has a little bit more experience than us. But I'm all for it, and I would love to have the council's support in kind of reimagining what we're doing here.
Okay. So we need to get some numbers out here then, right?
Yeah, if we can put the RFP out, then that will give us, like I said, when we started this project, we had a lot more items on our menu here, but it was too expensive. We were told to stay in that 245,000 budget, right? So we were piecing things back and forth. Yes, we want this ADA equipment. Yes, we want more swings. Oh, now we have to take away a swing, and now we have to take away the bubble that we wanted and stuff. So this will allow us to really look into what's better for toddlers too. And I know online there was feedback from the toddler parents that they wanted stuff for their kids, which I get, but that's all that's there right now. You guys have you have toddlers, that's what is there right now. But so this would, I think, please everybody if we're able to go for both, for all age groups here.
What number are we aiming for right now?
3 million. Approved.
No.
Can we get Woodard and Curran to chip in or cover the gap?
Sponsor.
I mean, yeah, sponsors. I mean, we collected 60,000 for Montverde every year, so they're out there. So we want to cover that type of gap, but I mean, our current budget is what did I say?
225.
Yeah, 225, 230. I'm thinking a couple more 100,000. Probably between about 400 and 430, something like that.
I would say because our proposal right now is 287 for what it is, as is, and we're gonna probably almost double that.
We have,
Area.
Ms. Mayor.
Where did you get the numbers of 287 though? How do you come up with it?
If you look at the second page of
But
the
that's just one
pamphlet
vendor,
that I
right?
gave you,
Yeah,
so this was what we've been working on. Is this
Yeah, we
for
gotta shop it.
for the older kids? So this was new tonight.
Never ending.
It's all right. It's a great idea.
There was a hand up, by the way. I don't know if Mr. Mayor, can we?
Joe, you have a question? Oh.
No, there's no comment, thank you. Not during.
Playground, there are some smaller, like Kaboom, that does community where you got to get everybody in to volunteer and things along that line and kind of put together, which I've done a volunteer on a playground project. I said I will never do it again. I will be sick for that month. It was that bad. There are a couple ones that out there. A lot of the ones that have the most money, they look at household income and your poverty levels and things along that line, and that's part of the point system. And I think we're almost double more than double. It really hurts to get those. Not to say there's not some out there, but the timeline again to get that and the wait and things along that line would be tough.
Right, and I did inquire with like Live Well, because they do offer local grants, but they did help build Lake Felter Park, which the Kiwanis to South Lake also funded, and that's basically what she said, that the Kiwanis group was really in charge of getting all the funding, and then they would help with some matching grants, but their grant process is very tedious and long, and then we need another nonprofit that's going to be willing to do it. And
We have Southland, Lake Orlando, and then the other house.
Advent Health.
Yeah.
Half of the park's theirs and half of the.
Right.
Yeah, this
Split it
slide
down the
is
middle.
yours and-
Let them fight over it.
Yeah.
So all the new homes that we approve, that's going to be impact fees. That's going to be money for, you can use that for parks.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing. I forgot to mention that. So good point, Mr. Morganelli. So, we just increased our impact fees for parks, and it was for this consideration. So every home built today going forward is $5,811, and it goes up in April again. So $5,800 a home. So kind of do that math real quick. 100 homes is $500 and something thousand that we can use. So it's specifically for parks, and also some of it we can use for the community building rebuild. When you look at your budget to actual worksheet, how much did we sell the land out there for, Mayor? 270.
Where?
How much did we sell the fire station land for? 275.
275. Yeah.
So when we did the sports courts, council council allocated that land money toward the sports courts. However, at the time we had some parks impact fee money, and you can actually run parks impact fee kind of like, I won't call it a loan, but into the negative, so future impact fees pay for it, which is what we did. So we show a negative on our parks impact fee budget, and we've already recouped 100,000 of that back. So I know it's kind of moving some math numbers around. I can sit down and explain it to you a little bit more closely, but basically we're as we get parks impact fees, we're paying down the money that we use for the sports courts, and essentially not using the 275 for the sports courts that we got out of the sale of the fire station. Or reverse end, we could take on the books the fire station money now and zero out the parks impact fee, because it's right at that amount to the 275, and every dollar going forward could be for this park too, from parks impact fee till we pay it off. And it's going to add up pretty quickly once it gets going this fall. I mean, $5,800 a home.
Bill Clean is 100 and whatever, 2 homes, right? So there's 500 by itself.
Yeah, well,
And they'll have that down in another 3 weeks, I think.
Oh, but 20 homes would be $100,000, and Willow Ridge is paying still too the new impact fees.
Yeah.
And they're still going through permitting on stuff. I think they got 17 permits active right now. They're going to pay here in the next little bit. So there's 100,000 right there.
So as much as I always say we need to save money, and I always say that, right? But I will say that I think we as a council need to do this the right way the first time. If we're going to go down this road, I think we do it the right way, and we make sure it has everything that we need to last for the next, hopefully, 20 years, 30 years.
Mm.
So it's just me.
400,000 should.
Yeah, definitely should.
Huh?
Park playground stuff is ridiculously expensive for what you get, and a lot of it because they got a design for insurance and ADA and liability, but it's horribly expensive. I don't know why. Yeah, you could build a building for it, but it is what it is. I mean, it's.
So we're telling them, okay, you could spend up to $400,000. Is that what we're saying here?
I think our thought is that we would go ahead and we would try to put all the features that we would know we would want in the park, from small slides to big slides to the swing sets to some climbers. And, we could do that by looking at existing pictures. We'll put that in the RFP with the stuff and put it out and see what comes back. I mean, it may be less, it may be more, the installation cost is really, you could flip a catalog and say, here's what you get for 220. It's just that installation cost is all over the place when you look at it. We also have to look at when we get to a certain amount, and I'll have to get with Anita, whether some things are 250, some are 350, depending on what it is. They have to bond under state statute, so we'll have to look and see what that number is if we're putting in the bonding. That adds 10% to the project off the bat. So we'll have to look into that as well.
So what kind of direction we need tonight?
Do you like this new ideal and concept? And we'll Vision Committee, I think, are ready to get to work for you.
What do you guys think?
I'm with it.
Over here? Carol? All right. There you go. Everybody loves it.
Perfect. Okay. Back to work.
Hey, and who knows? You come back again, you get $1 million. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. Keep it moving here. Let's go on to the policy and procedure for public comments and agenda items.
So this is a follow-up discussion from a regular council meeting, and staff's looking for direction to create a policy. And really the basic question is, do you want to allow residents to bring in PowerPoints during the public discussion point? And if so, we need to talk about how long those are going to be. And keep in mind that as council, we have very limits on regulating content. So if someone wants to come share something about a pothole, they share a pothole. If someone wants to share their family vacation, they're going to share their family vacation. So we can't legally limit content. So, but the question, there's some obscene things that obviously we can get to the point.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Anita, but I understand that I can call the time in a meeting.
I'm sorry?
I understand that I call how much time we give somebody, not the.
Yeah, I don't know that you have in your code a time limit.
No,
I'd
we
have
don't.
to check. So it's in your discretion. I would just say that having a policy is good if you follow your policy. If you don't follow it, then that complicates matters legally, and I think we have to make sure that we're being fair and impartial as to how much time we're giving people, so that we're consistent.
What's the normal time at a normal meeting?
Some jurisdictions do 3 minutes, and some jurisdictions do 5 minutes. I don't ever see them over 5 minutes. Some will have different timelines. You know, if you have a group that wants to speak on a particular issue, then they'll say, well, we'll give you 10 minutes, but you're going to be talking for a group. You're not going to get 10 minutes individually, but you can appoint a spokesperson to be on your, to be your representative. So various ways, but typically I see 3 to 5 minutes. In your code?
Yeah, I don't think I've come across that, but we can check that.
I kind of personally really never wanted to make people have a limit in meetings for so many years now.
Yeah, on the PowerPoints, obviously, as staff, we need them the week before, you know, just to have time to load them. I just can't, you know, stop them at the meetings, and, you know, with the 5, 6 TVs and stuff, it just is, it's tough, and we don't know what's coming in on the thumb drive if someone's going to be malicious. And
Look how much we learned. That one guy came in and told us all about AI and how we're all going to die.
It's true, and you know, there's I will say that the time I have allowed PowerPoints is the only time is the land development cases for the applicants to share the land development, because that seems to be reasonable, because they can tell the story a lot better and staff can tell the story because it's their story to tell.
And those are, sometimes they're quasi-judicial, and we have to allow them to present their evidence, and any interested party that would qualify, you know, they would have the same ability, so.
I mean, if we're telling residents they got to give you the presentation a week, we'll say a week, even 2 weeks, whatever it might be. You know, more time, the better for you, so you can prepare for that. I think we still stick with that 5 minutes then for them. That's just my opinion. Like, you have 5 minutes. If you want to spend your time showing us 6 slides and it takes 4.5 minutes and you don't talk during that 4.5 minutes, then you got 30 seconds to explain the rest. But I think we have to be consistent, because there has been times where some have gone longer, some have obviously gone shorter, but I think we just need to have that consistency, and whatever we're going to stick with, that's what we stick with. And it stinks, because I know what you're talking about, Marilyn, where, you know, like Claremont, I think, is 3 minutes, and when someone starts speaking, they just hit a button and you hear the beep. And I get it, and I'm not a fan of that either. I think the issue is that, and what I've heard is from some residents as well, is that the consistency, because we have had some people that, you know, had shared their passion with us, but have taken 10, 15 minutes at times to do that. And, you know, I want to hear that as well, but at the same time, it's not fair to others then if we're saying to them they have 3 minutes or whatever we're telling them. I just think we need a consistency of it, that's all, just to be fair for everybody. That's all. My 2 cents.
Okay. Well, I guess we got to check if it's in 5 minutes in their book. I've never seen it or saw it.
I've done a word search for minute just to see what comes up, as well as public comment. I'm not finding anything. I can certainly search more, but I'm not seeing anything.
We can look at it.
And if you find it, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Bring it to the next meeting now. So we're going to try to be consistent. How's that?
Do you want to allow PowerPoints? I guess that's the main question.
Oh, that's a good point. Do we want to allow PowerPoint?
I don't have discretion, a lot of discretion. I think that's the point.
Yeah, but you don't want to open up something that has all swear words in it or something.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure that it complies. Well, no.
No, it doesn't.
It's public forum, so it's public comment. We will make sure it's legal. We're not going to censor people. We're not going to not allow them to present what they want, provided it meets decency and the legal standards.
But
Yeah, they can't show a naked child or have an F word up there, but,
yeah.
you know, again,
So we want to give them, have a deadline, say, hey, you got to give it to us 6 years in advance. How long?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It sounded like a good idea, but how
I-
long is too long?
I like Carol's 10 day. I mean, I was going to say 14, but 10 is. I'll go 14. I want to give staff enough time to really vet it and all. So
That's what I'm thinking.
at the end of the
Are
day.
you guys okay with 10 days, Brian, Grant? If they
10
want-
days is fine.
That's how?
So is it going to be an actual policy and procedure, or is it we're just adding 10 days for PowerPoint?
yeah,
Well, we're
I'll
gonna
have to get with Anita and kind of see what the best
We're
way
going to verify
to
our
do
5
that.
minutes, right? And then we're going to add this to come up with a procedure, I guess.
Yeah, we could do it by resolution,
Yeah.
just something simple.
So we're going to say, if it is 5 minutes, then we're going to say, hey, okay, you got 5 minutes, right? And if it is, and if we decide, hey, you got to have it in by 10 days, 10 days ahead of time.
For that.
Is that good for, all right with you?
10
Brian?
business days or
Huh?
10 regular
No,
days?
regular days.
Yeah.
We could do the 10 business days, that gets us to your 14.
That'd be 2 weeks.
Yeah, there you go.
That's, you know, I don't know.
And they will be not video PowerPoints because we're not set up for the audio system and the adjustment for the different
Right.
things and how it's going out on the system. That's not going to mess. So we are talking a PowerPoint type display, non-video display to
But
be
the whole
clear.
thing has to be within 5 minutes.
I would say that, yes.
Yeah, I would agree with yeah, definitely. And I think if we put like what you're saying there, you can't do video, you can't do,
Yeah.
as long as we have that out there for residents at that point.
What do
Yeah.
you guys think?
What about people coming up multiple times?
Oh, you mean getting up over and over? No, we gave them 5 minutes.
Okay.
I think you got to hold
So
those
That's my
5 minutes.
opinion. You know, you get up, you do your 5 minutes, and
I agree. I think you have to do the 5. If
We
you're
gotta
gonna-
get
if you're gonna be
done that night.
consistent, We have to, right, we have to
gotta
be fair to
finish.
that.
Yeah, and that, just one of my concerns is, because we've had some public comment time and things that have gone up to an hour and a half, and you guys are dealing with some big numbers and big issues too. You got to be awake and aware, and that's tough sometimes when we're going to midnight on things too. So, and I throw it out. I looked when I was looking through this. I did see one city. I was like, oh, that was pretty smart. They set aside them. It could be any number, but what they did at the beginning of their meeting, they set aside 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes, you could do 45 or an hour. First 30 minutes for public comment time. They made them turn in cards, and depending on how many people turned in cards, the mayor assigned, okay, if 20 people turn in, everybody's limited to 3 minutes to get through, or 5 minutes. If they had time to go, the normal 5 would kick in if they had time. So, if it becomes an issue, that's something also you can look at too going forward. So you guys can move on with business of the town as well. But there are citizens we want to hear from them and their concerns. But there's also some other, outlets as well.
Doesn't Lake County do that? When you go to one of their meetings, you have
Yeah,
to sign in
county
or
does
something
it,
like that.
Yeah, you do a card, so you come up
They
and
have the
present.
clock ticking.
Okay, I think we have direction, Anita.
All right, let's keep it rolling.
Okay.
About town council meeting minutes. You want to explain? You're talking about action minutes, our system to do them.
Yeah, so Caroline, I'm going to pick on her over there, and staff. We're having multiple meetings, and our meetings are long because you as a council are dealing with a lot of very varied topics that take a lot of time, consideration, comment, discussion, and whether they're quasi-judicial hearings or stuff under the financing. But what I'm seeing from the management side is our town clerk, for instance, the last meeting, 10 hours plus to get the meeting minutes out the door at the rate, how good she's doing that. And I'll compliment her. They're some of the best minutes I've seen. They're actually novels and not minutes. I want to talk about what statute requires, and then also talk about some options we can do. So the statute requires action minutes. So action minutes are a description of what was said briefly and what action was taken. So if someone came up, so I'm going to pick on John because he's in there. So instead of John Arellano came up to speak during public comment, instead of writing everything he said, John Arellano came up and spoke about how great all the trees are in town. That would be the action minute. That's all it would be written down, versus he went on about deciduous and evergreens. That is our preference, so they would be short so you can know what was talked about at the meeting, because we do record the meetings on audio, and now we have them on available for the public on YouTube, and obviously we have the downloads as well from the video. So we got a good capture where anyone in the public can go back and look, see what happened, if they can flip through a piece of paper and see what the discussion was. So on a resolution, quasi-judicial a little bit, they got to be a little more detailed, but you know, on a general resolution, you know, council received public comment, had a consideration back and forth, it was approved, da-da-da, you know, so it would meet those minimums. So that's the preferred, because Caroline could, with that type of minute, she could sit here and do that during the meeting and really come out with her minutes 95% done, because they would just be set in a format. The other option is we've looked at, there's a lot of different devices and programs and AI out there. We looked at a AI one that's specifically made for clerks, where you pop the agenda in to the system, you assign the voices, and it kind of creates it. She would still have to go back and, you know, pop the voices in, do the reviews, you know, make sure it didn't say anything. You know, sometimes AI say things like, huh, and do those because you're having the speech going through. So that would still save her time from where she's at, but probably still involve several hours of review, at least a couple hours, that, you know, especially when we have the longer meetings. So we've always kept very detailed minutes, but our meetings are getting really more entailed with going into in-depth and projects and things along that line. So I just wanted to see what you as a council would be comfortable with, if you'd be okay with more of an action minute and rely on our audio video to move forward.
You use action minutes and you're taping it every time too, right? And
we're taping and video audio.
Right, so for many years what we did was the action minutes and the tape, and people wanted to hear more than what's in the action minutes. We would make them a copy, but we also do the YouTube now.
Correct.
Where somebody can actually go online and look at it from there and listen to it. So there's 3 ways at this point on how to get them. So for her to be more productive than just doing minutes a lot. I'm perfectly fine with the action minutes and tape, but we actually have 3 things. So she can do her action minutes while she's here and make this time productive while we're taping it, and the YouTube's going to be there if anybody wants it. Am I missing something?
I mean, that would be our preferable way of doing it.
Right, okay. I'd be like, what do you guys think?
Just because we have that YouTube video where the public can go at any time and
yeah, sometimes
go listen
YouTube's
to
a little
every
hard
word.
On the voice, though. It's a little hard on the voice. But, I'm sorry, no, the YouTube's good on the voice. The tape's hard on.
Yeah, the recorders, because they're just in specific spots, and council's doing a much better job into the mic. So I think we're getting really good recordings now from what I've heard lately on YouTube. So
and the YouTube's excellent.
Then you get every word verbatim.
Yeah. Our tapes are a little bit hard to understand.
Yeah, it's more of a backup if we had a power loss, something. And in that case, you know, and I would say too, if we had a breakdown where, you know, we did have that happen one time in the 2 years we've done this, where we lost the power from that electric strike, then we would probably do a regular minute for that meeting off the audio recorders, because we know that wouldn't be out there for the public. So
yeah, that wouldn't be the norm.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
So you and I talked about the AI situation, and this was what that was. I was telling you I had, and I forgot to put it out today. But basically, this is what records, and it does do the different voices, and you can assign it to who you want it to. It also removes so's, all those kind of things. You can program for that. Again, that's just if you wanted to go down that road. I mean, but it's if you want, depending on how high tech you wanted to go.
Correct. Yeah, and we did look at that, and Caroline talked to a couple of her clerks. They do that. You know, you still, you know, would have to put it in a format on it and do the review and do your edits, and, you know, then really, you know, double checking for accuracy is your other thing you got to really do. You know, was it really what it said it was, you know, because that's the issue without going back and really listening. You know, there could be a possibility for errors in there.
Yeah, the goal I know is to obviously.
Where our YouTube is verbatim out of everybody's mouth.
Is everybody okay with the YouTube recording and action minutes?
Can we ask Caroline what she thinks?
Well, she's pretty new at it, so what do you think?
Do you have a preference?
It's great to save time. I think it's a good thing to do action minutes, but I obviously will do whatever you want me to do.
And one of the other things, Caroline is learning her position. I'm not going to pick on you, but as she learns her position, she's there's still a lot of things that haven't come over for Sandy that are clerk jobs and new things that she hasn't done. They're coming up from elections, and I got to get her time to do those. And right now, we're hit so much with public records requests. I mean, it's overwhelming, the public records requests we've had over the last 6 months. I'm hoping that calms down a little bit.
I don't think anybody's arguing about you.
I mean, that's the time issue where I got to get her to do her full load.
Yeah.
Just random question. Can we outsource it? Like, for example, the video's there, the audio's there. Can we just send it to third party? Give us the minutes on this? Let them
We
deal
can,
with
I
it?
mean, you could send it to, I mean, it's rather expensive. I could get a price on it, but yeah, you could have the minutes dictated and, you know, process through that. But, you know, again, you'd have to pay someone to sit there and listen to the meeting and do, you know, even if you had an AI do it, you know, for the accuracy, you'd have to have someone go back and listen to the meeting and make sure what is actually on there is what's on there.
Yeah. We would have to read it, in other words, still. What do you think, Carol, Joe?
Is the YouTube, that's a, counts as an official document or official?
It's a public record. Yep. It's preserved. And once it's on YouTube, I don't think anything ever comes off YouTube. I mean,
Well,
it's out there for a long time, I
if
guess.
South Lake goes away, they could, in theory, the channel could go away.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I guess that's the only question is backup wise.
Yeah, then we'll have backups. I mean, everything that's done is recorded on that hard, and you know, we'll download that to the server and get that kind of going.
I guess that's a question too about the contract for them then. If they decide to go belly up, is there a transition period where they would let us get all that video footage so we have it?
Yeah, we have it's all physically on this hard drive.
Okay.
Yeah, we have it on a hard drive, and
Well, we were doing it before they did it. Remember?
yeah, we were doing
our own.
Zoom.
We just can get this shot and then that shot.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah. What do you think, Grant? Brian?
Anytime I've ever had to go look back at anything, I just use YouTube or South Lake TV, and it's been pretty
That's
good.
what I'm doing too. Brian, you got any comment?
Nope.
All right, is everybody all right with action minutes and the recording and YouTube for right now?
I got one last question. Our YouTube, at what point does it start rolling off the website? Like, is there going to be a roll-off point?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I could find out though.
You know where I'm going with that? Because I want to make sure that
Your
2 years.
grandkids know, get to see it?
Well, yeah, grandkids. 2 years from now, someone wants to look something up on there.
Wow.
If it's on the website, a link to YouTube, right? They could watch YouTube 2 years from now or whatever. That's the only question I have. Is if
Yeah,
there's a
it might
roll-off
be maybe
period.
the town needs to look at establishing a channel and just duplicate all the videos and throw them on YouTube as well, you know, where he can upload them to our channel and his channel as well. I'm not even sure if it's on his channel or it's just a YouTube video out there. I don't understand this stuff as much.
I'm
So.
going to throw out a legal question to you then, because it's where I'm at business-wise, is that we got to be careful with, is it his content because it's on his channel, or is it our content because it's us in it? So there could be an issue there with rights to that video. And
Yeah, I mean, it's when we signed the contract, it's in that contract, I don't remember the language, but he has to preserve the public records, make the public records available, because everything he does is, we do that with everything. But again, we do have, you know, I know this hard drive here has an oversized hard drive and it's saving it. And we'll actually follow up and make sure we can maybe start getting that stuff to auto save over to our server and our firewall.
And if the council wanted to open up our own YouTube channel, it's a simple script to write that would copy it from them, copy it off YouTube on their channel, and we could put it on ours as well.
Yeah, I'd probably just have him automatically upload to ours and his. I mean, that would be the easiest.
Either way, there's just
Yeah.
ways.
Okay, well, it seems like everybody's comfortable with
Okay.
it.
Start taking your action minutes there, Carol.
Let's go ahead and move on to discussion on sidewalks projects. Who wants a sidewalk?
Where am I? Okay. We're kind of at the stage where the sidewalk pieces are all going to start coming together over the next couple years. As you know, we done a section that connects on Ridgewood, the Mag Terrace. Bella Clean is going to build their little section there. That's going to go down a part of Ridgewood, then cut over to Lakeside. Am I saying that right? I think I'm right. Lake, was it? No, Lake Street, Lake Street, in Highland. So that area. So it'll end up going down there. You know, we're going to have the 455 potential 455 storm sewer now that we got the $1.5 million project. The sidewalks will extend up probably up toward Fosgate or pretty well near Fosgate. So we have that connectivity piece coming. And FYI, when we did the 1.5 million that we just got from Webster, and again, I'll get some more details in the next meeting. I believe when I wrote that, it's for safety, but also improvements on 455, where it's going to allow us to use those funds to fix the downtown area and possibly put a roundabout in there and kind of clean that whole interchange up. So that'll be a huge improvement for downtown because we can streetscape that, landscape it, light it as a part of the project. So that'll be coming. And so we got a couple missing connective pieces. So as you recall, Willow Ridge, we put a trail in over there at Willow Ridge. The county and the state just redid the trail that goes all the way to Mineola now. And from there, from Mineola, you can go to Claremont and Winter Garden. And I was at a meeting last week at St. John's to talk about water quality and everything about 2-3 weeks ago. And they said in about 3 months, they'll have the final little pieces where you can do a whole circle on your bicycle around Lake Apopka for whatever that's worth for people like going out and riding their bikes. But what I'm interested in is making sure our residents really have access for the Willow Ridge residents, where they can have access in the town, and our residents that live downtown area or in this area can get access up to the trail, so you can walk to Publix, hospital, or ride your bike or something along that line. So long story short, where I'm getting at, the piece that is kind of missing in the puzzle is a little bit of Ridgewood and the area in front of Fosgate that goes from the sidewalk that the county has halfway down Fosgate, dead ends at Mr. Roberts' property, and then it dead ends at the end of Magnolia Terrace. So I would like to see if the council would be interested in getting that piece done, because it would be that connectivity piece. I've been talking with Mr. Roberts. There's a couple places in there that we don't have the right of way to get that in there. As you know, at some point we had that little strip easement that came over from the county, a little right of way easement. He would like to get that cleaned up that divides his two properties, but separate from that, he's willing to give us a few easements where we need to get around telephone poles and stuff. So we would move his fence, come around to get around the telephone poles, and then go back on that right away. And there's a couple places just because the grades we need to move onto his property. So Mr. Roberts is open to that, and has been talking with me for a better part of a year about possibly doing that. I think he will do that. I won't put you on the spot to say anything at this meeting. But coming back to the funding piece of this, so we have sidewalks funded, specifically the Hills of Montverde. When we negotiated that project, they provided the town with $100,000 to do the connectivity. So the hills would eventually, in theory, be hooked up. That was the case, but they provided $100,000 for money for the Fosgate connection. And then also within our general budget, part of the street money we put in there when we did the budget was for sidewalks as well. So we have in excess, even after we do the street paving projects that I told you about, the worst ones, we'll have well over $100,000. That piece of the project total will be about 150, 125, and we have a little over 200,000 in the budget. So I don't think the idea is to put a trail there, because part of that is already sidewalk. It would be more of putting a 6-foot sidewalk down, so you could still ride your bike or scooter, walk, and basically get into Mineola if you wanted to through that process. So I want to see if the councils would entertain moving forward on that sidewalk project.
So you just want to know if we're okay
to put a sidewalk in. Yeah, well, the money's budgeted. I just want to see, because of the amount, before I got one, the person that did our library over there, he's a great contractor. He did the sidewalk on Ridgewood, did an excellent job. I got a price from him to do a part of that section. It was reasonable. It was, be about 125,000. Then we just have the little section to do from Fosgate to Mag Terrace. So I would still have to put a bid out there, just an informal bid, but he did a great job on that Ridgewood sidewalk for us. I mean, at a price I don't think I can't even match.
How you guys feel, Brian, Grant?
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, my question I have is, you mentioned so many different sidewalks. Which one are you asking us?
From Mag Terrace
Yeah, he's here.
to down
He's
Foss
on-
Gate to connect to the
he's
sidewalk
on
in the county that dead ends.
Blackstone, Fosgate.
Right, but we don't have access. We would need Grant.
Correct.
It stops about here where the sign is. He wants to come all the way past Grant's property over here and then up Ridgewood and connect to the back terrace. This right here.
I would like to actually see what it is we're giving. Like, I don't understand what we have to give up something, obviously, to get, for the area we need for grant.
We did a workshop on this a few months, I don't know, gosh, it was maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And so this is the same conversation we talked with the school, Montverde Academy, about. Yeah, correct.
Oh,
where
about the cut through.
Yeah, so we did that same presentation, and all the council seemed to be fine with it. But down the center of his property, is it 10 or 15 foot, Mr. Roberts?
It's small.
There's a 15-foot right of way. So back when everything was initially
Oh, that's
platted,
here.
everything,
Yeah, I know
there
what
was
you're
4
talking about.
40-acre plats,
Right-
and then there
right
was a
here, there's
15-foot
some.
right of way around the entire thing.
Right
It's just the
about
right of way.
here.
No one's ever used it, so it's still
Yeah,
there.
right
and it
away,
goes through,
it goes
the
like
right
this.
of way goes through
And it stops.
the wetland, a part of it. To
Doesn't
get
go
to that right of way,
And
you have
it's-
to go
and
through a
it
wetland to
splits
get
these
to
two
it.
lots.
So it's an old Lake County right
It's
of
like
way
right there, ain't it?
because they required it at the time.
In the turn. Here's the sign, and then it's like right here.
I mean, is this Ridgewood or?
You don't like my drawing?
It,
This is
yeah.
Yeah,
Ridgewood,
I'd like to be,
this
I
is
mean,
Fosgate.
I just need to see it. I'm just being
Here's your-
honest.
here's your- that's
but
it.
regardless, you
Easy
know,
to
it
look
just
here.
if you're
Here's
interested to
the
move
sign
forward with
around
the
the
sidewalk, I
road.
guess that's more specific.
There's
And
one there, and then there's one that runs north. There's one that runs east to west, and there's one that runs.
I mean,
north
even
to
he's
south.
Yeah,
confused
I
on
So
this.
we don't care.
Sure.
It's his
about the
property.
south, the east to west. We want to vacate the north to south running.
I don't know where that one is. You're over here?
So there's 2 parcels there
Mm.
that we own. There's an 18-acre and a 15-acre, and there's a right of way that goes right between the 2 of them. And then there's one on our southern side that, with us and Bella Colina, we're fine with leaving that one. It's the one that runs between the 2.
so when we say platted right of way, it's from when Lake County had it. It's a platted 15-foot wide right of way that divides the center of his property, and it dead ends into the back of the house that's right there. Then the other part does a 90, goes through the wetland area. It's nothing the town would ever use for anything. I mean, it would be almost impossible to use. It's 15-foot wide. So, but I could definitely get you the maps and show you that. That's not a big deal, but just on the concept, I'm not gonna necessarily want to spend the time if you're not interested in doing the sidewalk project, because it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take time, and I'm getting ready to have meetings with Lake County because they got to sign off on this, and so it's going to take a couple months to get the process going with Lake County.
So you're thinking of the one that runs
Yeah.
in this direction. There's also one that runs.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And we want to keep this one because we bought 5 acres back there that's land.
No.
Except for that right of way.
No, in fact,
So
when
you
when
don't-
when
you
they
don't
did
wanna
it,
Close this one.
Fosgate
Save that
and
Runs this way. Oh,
Blacksteel Lake Rose,
I
are you talking
never
about, right?
looked at that one. Okay.
Or okay, in Blacksteel, when
Did
they
we do
first did
10
that
acres or
intersection,
something
they didn't
out
even
here?
plan for right of way, and we were
Was
still
it-
in negotiations with Willow Ridge, and we made Willow Ridge give an easement, or put in the contract where they would have an easement if they ever want to do a right of way. But problem is, it would go into that detention area, so I don't think you're going to ever see a roundabout there. You'll see a stoplight there probably before you see a roundabout. Hopefully not, but
Now,
yes, sir.
Paul, if you could clarify, you said that. Well, I guess let me pose it as a question. So, if we don't do this swap of land, then the sidewalk can't get built. Is that?
I don't think it's necessarily that. It was more of a conversation. That's something Grant really needs to, his property is basically cut off for something the town would never use. But also we need right away from him. So I approached him with this scenario
Oh, I
way
see,
back
yeah.
when of like, it would almost, if we didn't do it, we could probably do it, but we're going to have to move a lot of telephone poles, and it's going to really throw the
You wanna take a
cost
look at it?
up. Yeah, it's
Now-
the telephone poles that are in the way that are the issue.
Now, question, Anita, wouldn't this kind of tread a little bit on ethical. You know, we have a sitting council member that we're gonna essentially do business with, do a swap of land.
Actually, it has to go through the public hearing process, and the town has to make a determination whether or not you need the land for any public purpose. So it can't actually be a land swap. We can't do that because when right-of-way is dedicated for a purpose, it's for the public. So council has to make a determination at a public hearing, do you need it for a public purpose? And if you don't, then it gets vacated and it goes to whoever the property owners are on each side, is generally how the law goes. So it would be two separate actions. It would be a vacation process, and then we would do a separate agreement. What I had proposed for drafting purposes was that the Roberts would grant the easement in the event the council ever vacated the right-of-way. So they're willing to give it in the event you vacate it. So it's not a land swap. It is just they're committing that they'll give you that right-of-way in the event in the future at any point the council vacates right-of-way.
And obviously, I can't vote on that.
Yeah,
And he
so,
can't vote on it.
Mr. Roberts would recuse himself from that hearing. So my conversation's more up here because I gotta, in order to even get to the point of saying put a sidewalk in, I got a lot of discussion to do with Lake County Public Works, Lake County Engineering, Utility Services, you know, Mr. Roberts. You know, there's a lot of stuff that will take some time, and I just want to, I don't want to go through all that and then say, we really don't want to put a sidewalk through there. So that's what I'm really, you know, is if the council wants to move forward with that sidewalk and we have the money, 100,000 of that cost, you know, given to the town, donated to the town. Donate's not the right word, but given to the town for that purpose through there to get that connectivity.
Okay. So this is where I stand. So I'm for the sidewalk. That's a no-brainer. Obviously, Wooler Ridge is out there, and you know, hopefully, more than one or two people a month use that trail or that sidewalk once it's built. It doesn't sit well with me that we have a sitting council member that we're essentially, you do this for us, we do this for you. Now, if he wasn't a council member, sure, by all means. Obviously, we're already setting the precedence with Montverde Academy, where you build these parking lots and we'll give you that easement back there. So, you know, I think, you know, first of all, I think we should have done that, period. But, you know, I think it's being set up now to where everyone, you know, at some point in the future, we need something from them, piece of land, easement or whatnot, they're going to expect that. You know, so that's where I stand on it. Do I think the sidewalk is a good idea? Yes, by all means, sidewalk should go in. I just don't think it should be done in this manner where we have a sitting council member, we're essentially saying, give us that, we'll vacate that easement.
I never suggested that.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but either
Yeah.
way, it's still a sitting council member. It's just doesn't
and
sit
with
right.
that said, understand this conversation probably started 9 months to whenever we got the hill, probably a
It's
year,
20
a year
24
before
months
you ever
ago.
sat on council. So this is the planning process. Government takes long, but this was long before he showed any interest in being a council member. Just let you know.
No,
So
and
it
I
wasn't,
understand that.
hey, you're
I mean,
a
if
council
he
member, swap
doesn't,
this. That wasn't the conversation.
If he's not
ever.
on council for the next
Yeah.
cycle, then sure, by all means, we
Yeah.
could revisit this. If we haven't already fixed it. But there's also an option where technically easement for the sidewalk could be donated without us having to vacate any type of easement.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
I
can make that
request
option.
the vacation without.
I can't hear you.
I
sorry.
said I could request the vacation of the right of way either way.
You can, yeah, yes. And likewise, you know, it's up to you if you want to give an easement. So we can. Oh,
Damn.
sorry. Yeah.
I'm somewhat in the same boat as Brian right there. I mean, the sidewalk makes sense. It does. I don't know how many people are going to use that sidewalk. And I know we've talked about it, and there's going to be a handful that do use it. I'm trying to picture 95-degree heat, someone walking from, say, downtown to, you know, Publix and then back. But you made a good point. I didn't even think to ask that question. That is, if we don't do this, can we still do sidewalks? And apparently we can. And so that is something that I would be more in favor of that. And I think I'm going to echo what Brian said as well. It's a sitting council member, and I think it's the optics. I'm just going to be blunt. It's the optics of what it looks like. And anyway, so
So you're saying you would rather wait until I wasn't on council?
I think it would look differently, correct, yes. To the residents, yes.
If the vacate doesn't happen, what happens with the sidewalks?
Yeah, sorry, they couldn't hear you.
If the vacate doesn't
Uh-oh.
happen, what
Hang on.
happens to the sidewalks?
It's not working.
So,
That
you know,
part.
so the question was, if the vacate doesn't happen, would they have the sidewalk? So we would have to go look and see if there's a possibility we could build it. Again, utilities are the issue. You know, they're pretty high power poles there, so we would have to see what the cost is to move telephone poles or that are there, the electric poles that are there, and how they would have to move would be toward the line, so they would have to rerun the wires up top. So that's going to be, sometimes you can move a pole and it's not that bad because they shorten the wires when they're moving in. On this particular scenario, when you look how it is up there, they would have to rerun the wires on it. And I think we got 3, maybe 4 poles. Then we have one area where we have a huge grade issue where it's steep and where we'd have to go in to avoid that grade just cost wise. So it's just really, it's cost effective for the town to have an easement through the Roberts property. Can it be done other ways? Yeah, probably, but yeah, it may price it out where we can't do it, or you won't want to do it because of the additional cost. And I don't know exactly what those are yet. You know, I'd have to look, but obviously, as I always try to look for the cheapest route as your manager to get something done and stay within the bounds and try to get the most out of our dollars. You'll give her another mic too. That sounds better.
I think so. Hello? No, it's not.
It could still, go ahead and switch them. It could still be. Okay, so I guess in recap, like the sidewalks, don't necessarily want to do anything at this time to try to coordinate with that with Mr. Roberts' property is kind of what I'm hearing.
I'm okay with doing it.
Yeah.
I'm just the opposite, but I need to look at it on the map.
Sure.
It sounds like I understand it, but I just want to look at it first.
Okay.
I mean, if everybody's in agreement with it, I don't see an issue with it.
Well,
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think I got enough direction on that.
okay, let's do the budget amendment of consultants.
Sure. This just following up, as council asks for additional consultants or like anything else that's not necessarily planned in the budget, I just need to know where, if you want to move the money from, because I don't have any specific money in the budget for the environmental review and the legal review that we did. I mean, I could put it somewhere myself, but it's going to pull out of something, so I just need to know what council would like to do, if there's something specific where you want to put those funds.
And I did just get the invoice this
Okay.
week. I'm looking for it now. I think it's $600.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he did us a favor. And environmental consultant, you know, he said approximately 10,000 is what we're looking at on environmental consultant.
What did we do with Bella Colina one? That was 5,000, right?
What was the Bella Colina?
Didn't we hire somebody with an opinion on that?
To do what? I'm sorry, Mayor.
Didn't we get an opinion on that, on the Bella Colina decision?
Yeah, that's
That was the charter amendment.
Yeah, that was the charter amendment.
Yeah,
so.
and the invoice, I just received it Monday because it's billed, you know, at the end of the month. I think it was 600, but I'll keep looking.
So we need to get $10,000 for one and whatever item
Yeah,
for another.
so $11,000 to $12,000.
So we need an opinion on what to account to do a budget amendment on.
Yeah, so the options basically it'll go under legal professional services, and you know, usually our budget, we're pretty good on track with where things are at, except for obviously permitting, because we never know what that is. So, you know, is there another category that you want to pull those funds from? I guess is what I'm asking council, or, you know, I can pick and choose myself, but you know, something will go less somewhere else, or it'll have to come out of, you know, reserves.
And it was 600,
Okay.
So it was 600 for that.
correct?
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And I don't have the exact amount of environmental at this point, so, and we will have that, just so you know, we'll have that report in March. So,
So you want us to give direction on where to get the money from?
for the budget amendment, yep.
Okay. And it's 12,000 total?
We'll call it 12, yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think?
If it's just really essentially what bucket are we gonna pull it from, is that?
Yeah.
If Paul suggests under legal and professional purposes, sure.
No, that's where it's gonna get charged to.
Oh, it's charged
Yeah.
too, okay.
Credited too.
So I'll probably, if you want to keep the budget the same amount, I'll probably need to pull, I'll do amendment to put it in the professional legal, but I'll have to pull it out of something else if you want to keep the budget the same,
Yeah, we're
without
gonna,
doing a budget amendment from
it's
cash
gonna be
reserves.
credited to the,
So, you know, you
legal.
could pull some out of library, pull it,
So we
you know,
gotta
out
debit
of
it, yeah.
whatever, you know. things like that.
So the easy route is just to pull it from somewhere versus doing an amendment, a budget amendment.
No matter what, I'll do it, because I'll reallocate the budget if you want to keep the budget the same amount of spending. So, so something will get cut in another category. So, you know, we have a couple, so when I say category, departments, so we're going to put money into professional legal. It'll have to come from town council, finance, streets, public works, library, events, and there might be one more I'm missing off the top of my head, so.
The state trooper funding?
That, public safety is another one, yep. I do have them coordinated out through the year, so that'll be fun, but
isn't that a water expense?
I wish. Actually, I don't wish that, but.
We got an extra million there, right? So guys got anything?
Not sure who's
I think public
selecting.
safety is a great idea. You can pull it from there.
It's up to you guys.
I'm fine wherever we want to pull it from. I mean,
I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
I'm fine. I mean, Grant's idea there of pulling it from
How
was a
much
good
is
one
in the
idea
public
too. there,
safety
but,
now,
yeah.
150? Year to day, for the year?
I got it right here. Oh, I got Parks and Rec too, I didn't mention.
Pretty sure it was 150 for this year.
Public safety is 187,515.
187? Oh, we got extra money.
Okay, that sounds like three want to do that, so that's where we'll pull it.
Just out of curiosity, what's the council budget?
The council? It's what we make every month.
Yeah, the town council budget is 127,315. The only issue with the council budget is it's almost an expense for an expense. So there's not a lot of, you know, it's your operating cost, your stipends, and training.
Well, we voted for it. It
And
should come out
meals
of our
obviously are in
pockets.
there too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I needed. I think we got direction.
Alrighty.
Public safety.
Okay, let's keep it moving.
Not sure who-
Speed bumps. Policy. Do you have other cities' policies?
Yeah, so in front of you, you should have,
Oh, I do have it.
you have something there. So I'm getting approached. We have a request on Kirkland. We've had some on Lakeside, and I have some others requests in the past. And I'm sorry, it's someone's battery's going dead, and the mic doesn't need to be on, so we'll have to double check that. So I'm getting requests, and different council members or different residents would like to see that go into place. Right now, we've never formally have done anything when those come, because speed bumps, you know, do cost money. I don't necessarily budget for speed bumps. If you do one or two, it's not a big deal in the budget. It comes out of streets. You know, they can be, depending on the type you put in, I don't. Okay, we'll try that.
You guys should get one of these.
Yeah, they work good. Yeah, even though your mic's not on, I think we got a battery dying on one of them because it still has that connection. But what I was getting at is, as residents request this, because, you know, you could really quick become a town of speed bumps, and some places like them, the one where Mr. Morganelli went to all the residents on Highland and Lake, I really haven't had any concerns or people come back with complaining about them. When we put them on Temple, the residents were, you know, they were in my office all the time complaining about them because they didn't like them, but, you know, a couple residents wanted them. But there was a problem there. So what I'm getting at is, I don't know if you as a council just want people to come up and say, put a speed bump, or if you want to more objectively look at it. And really what I put in front of you is what some other towns have done. A lot of towns have, you know, they allow them when they see the need, but there are towns that are resident driven. And what that would look like this contempt policy, if they said, hey, I would like to have a speed bump in my area, we look at all the areas that would be affected. It's up to them to go out and get signatures of 67% of those people that would be mostly affected by the speed bump. So if you look at Kirkland, would be all Kirkland and the Pines. That would be the most affected area right now. Then if they get 67%, staff looks at it, makes a recommendation, and then ultimately comes before council, and council makes the final decision on it. So it puts a little objectivity. It gets the other residents involved if they really want it, so you know if the residents in that area wants it, and it puts the onus on the residents in that area that are affected to come up with the help come up with that solution. So just wanted to see if you were interested in maybe pursuing something like that versus just, you know, more subjectively just saying, sure, let's put a speed bump there. I mean, you may be fine with that, but that's kind of on you. Something else for considerations as you put speed bumps in, they do slow down emergency response times. The fire engines have to slow and crawl over them, then speed back up. You know, it's normally if you have one or two, it's not bad, but if they have to go from one neighborhood to another neighborhood, if you're at the end of the block and there's 5 speed bumps, there could be some change in time. And the other thing we got to consider, there's a lot of areas, and Kirkland would be an example, where we don't have sidewalks there. And the same with Highland and Lake, you got ADA you got to deal with. So technically, you're supposed to have a sidewalk built around it as a ramp for ADA, and that's something we need to kind of look at as we go forward if we're going to start putting more of these in town for speed humps.
So if somebody didn't want the speed bump after it's in, do they have to go out and get 67% of the votes to say no now?
I would say if the council is going to put them in, they're a lot of time. It's 2 guys a whole day in Public Works to put them in, and then the cost to put them in, then you're drilling 15 holes in your new asphalt. So it's one of those things. I think if they're in, you know, there have to be a minimum limit in my mind before you would want to pull them out.
So, okay, it goes 2 years and they want to pull them out. How do we do the same thing just in reverse? What would you think, Anita? Would that sound
I mean,
like the
you
right
could.
idea? Just do the reverse? Okay.
Yes, that's definitely.
So you guys remember, like, when over by me there, I went to all the residents and knocked on the doors and talked to them all and said, you know, what are your thoughts? I mean, most of them were already asking for them way before I was even on council, before I was on planning and zoning.
On Highland, right?
On Highland, yeah, Highland and Lake. A lot of complaints on the speeding and the stop sign there that no one sort of stops at. And when that roundabout was backing up, people would just cut down Lake and then fly down Highland. So, you know, again, I just went to all the residents, and I think when Paul and you and I talked, that's sort of what my opinion on this would have been, that, which is, you know, good 67%. I just think we just can't willy-nilly just have someone come and say, hey, I want a speed bump, and Paul's out there the next day, you know, putting a speed bump out. I think we definitely need a process for it. So, my 2 cents.
Okay. What do you think, Carol?
Well, I'm not a fan of speed bumps, but I do think that is the best way to slow traffic down. So, any idea about somewhere along the way I've seen something about signs and is speed bumps coming, something like that, a Department of Transportation sign that advances that speed bumps are coming.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
any
we have signs.
effectiveness?
If you go by the water tank, there's a sign as you approach it that you see it.
Any effect? Does the signage work at all?
Well, they know the speed bump is coming, but yeah.
So just the sign doesn't slow me down.
Well, if there's not
you
a
know.
speed bump there, no, it probably wouldn't. So
Speed bumps it is.
But do you like the idea about 67% of the people, the person that wants them would have to go and get 67% of the people to sign saying they also want them, and then it would come to the town hall staff, and then it would come to council. Do you like that idea?
I think it probably should be the majority of the residents in any given subdivision or community. Just
So 67 is a good number?
What if there's only one house on a street?
That'd be
Or only-
100%.
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
if there's one house, then there shouldn't. If
Yes
the
or
person
no?
is speeding is the house, it's the kids. But I mean, if there are some streets that aren't going to, like I would say, like Strahan would be for example. There's 4 or 5 houses that, for a cost effective, that if someone came and all 5 people said that, staff would recommend to council. Well, that's probably not going to make logical sense. We could put a police officer and get him at the stop sign. Once in the morning, and that would probably end it.
Well, plus, if the street's forfeit, was Fosgate or a long street like Ridgewood or something, the county though, a long street in Mag Terrace, how far from where you want to put the speed bump in, or do you have to have everybody on that street surveyed to get the 67%?
I think we would, what I see from looking at this policy is they look at the areas that would be most affected by the residents. So where they went in before, like Mr. Morgan went and talked to people on Lowry, talked to people on Highland, and talked to people on Lake Street. And, that's where the majority was. And likewise, the example of Kirkland, as I look at Kirkland as the manager, I would say, okay, we would look at the GIS map. The most people impacted at this point would be all of Kirkland and probably the Pines. So they would be the ones that would have the most impact on
So
it.
the Pines has, let's say, 65 houses and 8 people on Kirkland, so 72 houses, you would need 62% of 72?
Yes, I assume whatever that number would be.
And you would set that goal when the person came in to get.
We would just look, we'd go on the GIS map and look at the area that would be affected by that. Then even like what I would say, why it needs to come for council, even like Kirkland, why there may be a need now, we're within 12 months, and once I get the schedule where Kirkland's going to get under construction, so it wouldn't make sense to pop one in right now. But that would be something, if they got the signatures, once we got Kirkland done, we might even be able to build that into the project and have it as a part of the project.
So like if Long Ridge was having a problem with people cutting through their neighborhood instead of 455 to Fosgate, they could.
The Long Ridge neighborhood could come and say, put some speed humps in.
That's a similar situation to what was going on
Yeah,
over
it
by
was.
me as
Yeah.
well.
The
So, yeah,
roundabout.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, it stopped. I mean, there's really no more cut-throughs anymore.
What do you think, Brian?
I was pulling it up on the map. I understand the safety side of things. I think we're trying to cure something that can't be cured. We have every 30 feet, there's a speed limit sign. There's some type of sign. There's a crosswalk sign. Like, I feel like in the last year we have like exploded with just signs. Like, there's a sign every 30 feet, no matter which way you go. Doesn't solve the speeding issue. We've increased the budget for the state trooper and, Lake County. People are still saying they're speeding. It's subjective. If we're going to base something, show numbers. I think I put something on here for later on, traffic study. All right, well, let's see, where is the traffic? What is that going to do? What's going to be the unintended consequences of putting speed bumps? People are obviously going to circumvent it and go a different route. And then now it throws more traffic to the street next to it. So I understand that residents are going to have concerns, but we can't just go off just the residents that are voicing it that they want a speed bump. How about the ones that don't want it or just don't care? So again, anything with the speeding, it's going back to trying to cure something that we can't cure. We cannot, there's just, no matter what we do at this point, people are going to speed by. Regardless of the hour, it's just we can't really do anything. And we could keep complaining. I mean, I don't know how much more signs we could put, how much more state troopers we could get out there, how many speed bumps. Like, I think, just adding something else to something that is not going to do anything. It's obviously a cost there associated with it. But, that's just my take on it.
What was the cost again? I don't remember. Was it
There's not much.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the type and the size of the speed, and now there's actually some new designs that do let the fire engines pass through them, which are the most expensive kinds. But the bumps themselves, they're not. We buy the heavy duty ones because they last, and I want to say those are probably going to be about $3,000 and probably 500 to ship. And there's probably $600-700 in signage, and the public works is a day out there. So you're probably looking, for the smallest type like you have on yours, about $5,000, and maybe up to a little over $10,000 if you get into the more advanced speed tables that allow a true 25 mile an hour speed or a 30 mile an hour speed. Those are longer, bigger, heavier, but they do allow fire engines to pass right down the middle of them too. So
We haven't used those.
yeah, I think they put them in Winter Garden somewhere. They have those.
I've seen them. We haven't used them. Plus ours, what's good about ours is if we decide we don't like it, we can take it out and reuse it somewhere else. That was nice about them.
So is that right? 10,000 plus or minus per?
Well, for the kind like we have on Highland and Lake, you're going to be more in the 3,000 to 5,000. So let's say 4 with labor and staff time and everything, and the pins and the shipping and all that. Then if you get into the more advanced ones that you would see in a 30 mile an hour street, then yeah, you're probably looking closer to 10 because it would be a wider, longer table as well. And really, if we start putting a lot of those in, where the areas we don't have sidewalks, we need to address ADA if we start popping them in to make sure people can get their bicycles and wheelchairs around the speed bump safely.
See, I think what we're trying to do here is solve the problem that somebody thinks they need speed bumps. So first, we give the person that thinks they need speed bumps the duty to go out and get signatures of 67% of the area that you tell them they need to get, right? And then they come back and you guys look at it and you guys tell the council, which at that point we would vote, hey, we think we need these speed bumps in this area. Here we got 75% of the people saying that in that area. So then the council votes and says, okay, let's put them in. And bam, you put them in, and 2 years later, people are raising heck, they don't like them. So then you're going to tell them, you got to go back to this area and get at least 67% of the vote to take them out. So and let's say they do that, and we take them out, the ones we put in, we actually can put them on a shelf and reuse them. So it's not like we're going to spend $3,000, $5,000 every time we do it. Because every one we've ever put in here, we've taken back out and put it on a shelf. But at this point, I think we need to come up with some kind of process that Paul can tell people to move forward with it. Because ultimately, it's coming back to us whether we do it or not. Would that sound about right?
Yeah, I would agree. It gives the resident who has a concern a way of doing something. Because I think I'll just say it, there's a sense of frustration. They see this problem and they don't feel like we have a way to help them fix it and, show up to council meeting, and then it's hard for council to make that type of decision on the fly because you don't have information to make that decision of how bad the problem is. And that's something too, I guess going to Mr. Rubio's point, if they get the petition, and I think that's kind of in there, we could do some speed monitoring on the road to really see what the concern is and how many cars it is, before you make that decision. That could be, a device we can budget for next year to do as well, to really monitor what the problem is.
Right, but we're really talking about this because we have people that think they need speed bumps.
Correct, yeah.
So we need to pay attention to those folks, and
Yep.
and if you put the ball in their court and say, hey, you got to get 67%, I'll almost promise you 50% of them will disappear right there.
We're sort of
They're
giving
not
them
gonna do
homework.
And if it is the problem they think it is, and which may be, residents I think would jump on it quickly and sign
Right,
it
they'll
and
sign.
get that signed up, and that's kind of what happened on your street, Mr. Morganelli.
Yeah, but at that point, it was a roundabout going in, and
Everybody was using it. Yep.
So it was way, way more cars than ever went down Highland, and most of them were just teachers getting tickets. At that
Yes.
point.
Yep.
That's what the cops, police told me.
Yeah, and you have to take considerations, and they got to be strategically placed. I'll come and say, like, if say one of the more dense neighborhoods, say Long Ridge or Willow Ridge, come and say, hey, we want speed bumps in the neighborhood. the issue you have there is you can't put the speed bumps right in front of someone's house because they slow down and they accelerate fast once they get past them, and all of a sudden you have this house that's going to be full of traffic noise and just the hump of the speed bump too when the Jeeps like to go over them. So I mean, there is some places where they may want it. That doesn't make logical sense too to put them in because we
but
don't
that's
have the
getting
ability.
so far into this that, you know, that's, you're on number 10. We're stuck on number 2, you know. If you guys are all right with just giving him that process right there to do, at least we can get the ball rolling here, and the people that got complaints are getting a little bit of the, you know, traction on what they want. I don't know. I feel we should give them something.
Has there been anywhere that has a lot of complaints lately, or?
Kirkland is the most recent one. There's a resident that has called really concerned about Kirkland, and I've had them on Lakeside from some residents. So those have been the most recent ones.
There's only like 3 houses on Kirkland, right? 5 houses.
Well, you got all the pines coming to it though.
Right, so from the Pines to 455, well, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 homes.
Homes on there, yeah. But the problem is more than likely the pines are coming there, speeding through that area.
We had one on where Ruth Ryan's house used to be. That first house you're going up Kirkland on the left that the guy redid. We have one right there for, remember? We trying gave us hell.
I remember that one.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the second day I was mayor, we took it out.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I think as residents see them going in, other residents who see a speeding issue, you know, you're gonna probably get more and more requests as you put them in. Would be more than likely.
Since we've had one in there, and we have experience in that one, in that street with those people, I would say to put the more expensive one in there that's not coming out then. It's the lower one that's going to stick. The one we had in is the one that really slams the car.
Yeah, you had a 5 mile. So what we put on Highland and Lake was a 15-mile-an-hour one, and
Right.
you know they make them. You know they get when you get into the 25-mile-an-hour ones, that's where it really gets expensive in the 30.
Yeah, the 15 should be fine. You know what I'm saying, guys? You know, it is. And the parking lot ones are, you know, hell on cars. I mean, they beat cars up.
And you can do 25 over that without an issue.
The low
So,
one, yeah.
Yeah, the one that you have there, so.
You know.
I think the one that we put in, it's rated 15/20 is what they call it.
Well, we got think.
Okay, so we'll work on a policy for you to look at in the future. So
All right.
I'll get it on the board and work on that.
All right. So what do we want to do with the next stuff here? We want to decide what we want to move forward with. We're talking on stuff. There's so much stuff. Does anybody have anything that's not on these 2 lists here? There's 2 lists. I don't even know how many stuff there's on here, but there's 2 columns. Is there anything, Brian, is there anything you want to add to these lists here?
I think I added enough, about 18.
Okay. How about you, Grant? No? Joe?
No, I added plenty as well.
Okay. Hi, Carol.
No, I'll wait for the next round.
Okay, well, what I was thinking here, so that we can be productive and get through this, is we all go home, take the list, we pick out 5 things off of these 2 lists that we like and would like to talk about. We send those 5 things to Paul. He takes the answers from all 5 of us and puts together, you know, who voted the most for this, you know, which ones came up the most, and we attack it that way, so it's, you know, we're more interested in what we're doing. So let's say, you know, we all pick one of them. Well, that got 5 votes, so that gets on it. If we you know, it's going to come down to some only having 2 votes, but at least it's, you know, more than one person wanted it. Does that make sense? Because right now we would have to sit here and decide what we want to talk about next meeting, and that's going to take forever.
Can we pick more than 5?
Huh?
I mean,
well, we're never going to go through this. You know, I mean, what do we do tonight? 7, I think? About 8? So, okay, why don't we pick 8?
I had a question for you. What happens if Brian picks 5, Grant picks 5, you pick 5, there's 25 unique items there then? That's
That
the
could
only flaw.
happen. That might even be better to pick 8 then.
Could
Because then we'd have more.
Could we do maybe a ranking, and then we knock off 2 or 3 every workshop?
Oh, you mean rank them?
Yeah,
Rank
I'm
these?
just-
How would you do that? Oh, in order that we,
Yeah, like you
that
think
we
it's of
personally
important.
want?
Yeah, and then
Yep.
Paul would.
And I'll just throw out some of these
That's
things
not
on there, some of these items that are on there, looking at them, I think with some time with me, I could answer 80% of the question, and maybe it would be a little bit less if a council member wants to do that as I look at some of them need to be talked about. But, don't forget, by the time we get into the May and June, we're going to be in budget workshops. And so that's going to be the priority. Now we can have 4 and 2 meetings a month, but just throwing that out there,
yeah, you're right,
May and
because-
June, we're going to be in the budget. So
Yeah, you
I
got,
don't know
like,
if we'll get through every one of them.
land development code review. I feel I'm pretty good on that, but I've been sitting there a long time. So if somebody wants to know land development code reviews or comprehensive plan review, you're asking how this, who asked us? Did you ask that, Brian? This one here? Comprehensive plan and land development code?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you asking that you want to understand how the process works better?
Yeah, I mean, everything from procedures to obviously when there's obviously amendments to the comp plan.
Yeah. Okay, so what Paul, I think, is getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if anybody wants to know about comprehensive plan reviews, which, by the way, I don't, because I've done it a few times, they should, he's saying that you could sit with him and go through this list here on the ones that he could explain the different ways things happen, more productive one-on-one with you, and then pick out the ones in here that are things like park and rec trail connectivity and shade benches and playgrounds. Well, it sounds like in that one that we need to decide how we want to connect our trails, or where the shade benches and playground improvements should be. So that would be a group effort to talk about.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going?
And some of those would be appropriate conversations for the budget workshop too.
Yeah, like that one.
as you kind of
Right.
get to that, if it's purchasing things on
All right.
the comp plan is probably a good example. I could sit with you and Mr. Parks can come in, but generally every year we have to do a comp plan amendment because the state requires it. Not every year, but Anita might be able to help me. Every 7 years we have to
Yeah.
completely redo it, and we're getting that process. We work on it for 2 years to do that amendment. Generally, is that fair to say? Is what
Yeah.
last time? And do you know where we're at? Are we up for that anytime soon?
I brought it up at the last staff meeting, and we went online to look, and it's a while off, I think.
Okay,
I think we just completed that
process.
last year.
Okay.
Well, can you go through this and give us the ones that you feel that you could explain to anybody that wants to hear?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure what the specific questions are answering, but let's see, I'm just at the bottom of page 2. So, annual budget, long-term financial operating costs, always we'll sit down with every council member, explain anything about budget, and some of those things we'll get into the budget workshop. Capital, if it's a question of like they want to redo capital spending, or if it's a question want to understand capital spending, yeah, that would be easy to explain. Impact fees are very statutory dictated on how and what we can use those for, so that would be an easy one to explain.
Well, I just, instead of going through.
Yeah, I mean,
right now,
everyone, and
you just got to say, hey, these are the 8 I can explain to everybody.
Yeah.
Or these are the 10. The others, there are stuff on here we talk as a group. So.
yeah. The PUDs, just from, as a staff level, we've talked about redoing some of our land development codes, or even redoing the whole land development code book and doing PUDs. But the reality is, as a council, you might see one more PUD in the life of Montverde. We're out of land. It's almost going to be a mute subject. We've got the 38 acres and the orange farm, which may or may not be a PUD. So, there may be some amendments, but we're probably not going to see any PUDs again. And same with the land development code, we got the big stuff done. It's really, do we just kind of fix the areas that are going?
Yeah. The EAR report actually for the comp plan was done in 2020. And so our next cycle will be in 27, and I think that's what we talked about at the meeting that we need to get started on that, and we'll be working with the Planning and Zoning Board and then council as well.
Sounds like you'll have some pretty big review times because that's going to be state mandated. So if we talked about it as a council, it probably wouldn't lead us to anything because we're going to be in that process anyway. So, I mean, if you want, I can go through and look at the ones, and I honestly, I just sent them all to Caroline. I don't know who sent what, but I could look at the emails and call. I know Mr. Morinelli and Mr. Rubio. The majority of those are yours, and I can call you and see specifically what or sit down with you, what kind of questions you're wanting, and maybe I could get to an 80% or a 50% with you. Then it could be a smaller topic at the meeting if you want to handle it that way.
So
For some of them.
So we can go back and do my idea with, don't pick stuff that you probably could talk to individuals one-on-one, and we pick stuff that we feel we should talk about as a group, and then prioritize which ones we talk about first. Because all of these are pretty good, but it does go back to setbacks and requirements, the very last one. Well, that's the rules, so you can explain to that individual what the rules are. It's not like we're going to change them, right? What do you think? What do you think, Brian, Grant, Joe, Carol?
I mean, it sounds like I think Paul needs to whittle it down a little bit with individuals, with us. You know, in general, I mean, we can take C off of this now too. That you can cross that one off because we just did that one tonight.
Yeah, I agree. The discussion and guidelines for residents, including presentations, I don't think we have anything else to add to that.
Nothing else there.
And also, item N, parks, recreation, trail connectivity, shade, benches, playground improvements. We're waiting now for a little more information to come along, so I think we could probably remove that from the list.
But you see what I'm saying? We could sit here and go through this for the next 2 hours.
I agree. I
wanna do
think
that.
Paul should probably just divide it out and show us which ones need to be one-on-one and which ones we can handle in workshops.
I mean, you can just put on like 2 or 3 per workshop. I mean, it doesn't need to be.
Or how, that's, I mean,
don't overload anybody here.
we've already eliminated 2 of them right now.
So here, why don't we do this? Why don't we go through these to our next workshop and come up with it, right?
Okay.
Because
That's
it's
a good
obviously
idea.
what we want to do, but let's do that as a workshop because it's going to take forever to do that. Right. Workshop on how to handle Coppic Square workshop.
Or we could go back to where we each take these lists, we put them in whatever order we think is
That's a good
priority.
idea.
And we turn that list into Paul and he can say, okay, 6 people want, or 4 people want this is what we'll do. Now, where did that idea come
That's
from?
really good. What do you guys think of Carol's idea?
Yeah, I think I just bounced it back to Paul. Great, that's what we're gonna do. He wasn't paying any attention. Let's move forward.
Hey, you got to have fun with it. Okay, is everybody okay with that? You guys go home, send an email to Paul on 8 things you think we should do at our next council meeting, and then he can combine those 5 emails and see who wants to do what, and bring the ones that everybody wants to talk about first. And then you can even take a look at this and say, well, Paul can take a look at this and put an email out saying, hey, I can talk to you each one-on-one on this pretty easy and get through it.
Yeah, and the council is going to remember we got our regular council meetings with our agendas. We get public comments, and we've always done workshops pretty well from the first of the year until we get toward Montverde Day. But recognize as staff, we're going to have stuff like tonight with the funding that's important. That's going to get top of the agenda because we've got to deal with that. So these workshops, I will be adding stuff to them if it's important to the town. So just don't get frustrated with that. We'll have to prioritize if I need direction from council on certain matters. We'll have to do that, but you can always hold
Well,
extra
we have to
workshops
decide
if you
we
want
wanna have
to.
workshops
Yeah.
first. That's what I'm getting at.
Decide if you want what.
We have to decide if on the topics we want to have workshops.
Correct. I'm just saying I will have to add my own topics occasionally.
Well,
is all I'm
you
getting
might
at.
say we need to talk about it as a council meeting because we need to vote or something on it.
Yep.
You can give us the topics and we can okay it.
Okay. Is everybody okay with the 6:30 time? And I know Carol, you mentioned if we could start at 7. What's that?
I'm not. I was gonna
So
say
I had a
go ahead,
question
Mr.
or
Rubio.
maybe proposal. You know, if we have workshops, we have the meetings, and then we have special meetings, that's a lot of days of the week that we're pulling away from staff because they have to be here with us the entire night, basically. I would say it would probably be a good idea to do the workshops during the day. Obviously, the meetings and the special meetings stay at their regular time and schedule. And also, I feel like we could probably accomplish more if we do them in the morning versus doing them at night. You know, it's just, I guess, just the way I see it. But I know, you know, if we have a workshop plus a special meeting plus a regular meeting, that's a few meetings a week that we have staff now staying here to 9, 10 o'clock at night. So just, that was just a thought that I had when,
So I guess I have a question about that then. So like, if they're, and this is more of a staff question, I guess. So they're here tonight at 9:15, right? We wrap up. Do they have time tomorrow where they're not the full 10 hours? Like, do they have 4 hours? Like,
Yeah,
comp
I
time,
mean,
in other
we
words,
never
comp
know
time?
how long a council meeting is going to go. So generally on a meeting day, staff will come in an hour, hour and a half later, and then on the day after they'll come an hour. But you know, they'll still end up picking up an hour overtime, 2 hours overtime. You know, like when no one anticipated the midnight meeting, right? So they ended up 4 hours overtime because you can't plan for stuff like that. But yeah, staff, I give them some flexibility of like, you know, come in, you know, when you need to, and sometimes on the work week they'll leave.
It's not pure overtime.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll ask, you know, to leave a little bit early on a Friday or something like that, or excuse me, Thursday, and we'll let them do that as well. So
If we did it during the morning, I guess you said morning. I mean, during the daytime though, would they? I know it's different. I mean, it's something different. And I think Claremont switched theirs to 3 o'clock, and their main meeting's till 3, which I don't agree with that because it's their main meeting. But they were also going
Sure.
7, 8 hours for their meeting. or
your
something like
staff is here to humbly serve you, whatever you want to do. So whether you want to start them at 1 in the morning, or start them at midnight, or start them at 6 in the morning, we're here for
Groveland
you.
would sometimes have a workshop prior to their regular meeting too.
Oh, that's an idea. Hmm.
So
That's a long
you would
night.
schedule like an hour workshop, and then once the time rolls over, you start your regular meeting.
Oh,
You
I
have to
like
redo
that.
everything over again.
The only downside to us, we have dinner though. That's the only problem
Oh,
there.
we have dinner.
Yeah, and that's what I actually did in
Special
Colorado.
meetings, workshop, and then special meetings. You could combine those
Special
two together.
eat work council meeting. Special meeting, eat dinner, and go to council. No.
Well, I will say on the flip side, you wouldn't have anyone pushing the 5-minute limit if they were eating. So there is that.
Yeah. I gotta say I'm pretty busy during the day or even the morning. I'm pretty tied up. Especially on the phone with Paul while whatever I'm doing. What do you think, Carol?
No.
What do you think? Brian said right. Yes, right. Do during the day or in the morning. Grant?
No.
Yeah, I have to say I'm busy. I wish I wasn't that busy.
no, that's fine. I understand that. You know, you're busy during the day. I'm busy in the evenings with my kids. That's when I get to spend time with them. So we also have to take a look at it from a fair standpoint, you know. And of course, I signed up for this. By all means, I'm going to get it done no matter what. But I was just saying, you know, times are changing. Council members are changing, you know. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
And I can't blame you for doing it. I really can't. All right. All right. So we're gonna pick some topics and send them to you. Is that what we decided to do? Like Carol asked.
I think.
Okay. Why don't
Yes.
we all pick 8 topics, send them to Paul, and he'll have Caroline put together what, in order, how they rank to what topics we want to move forward with. How's that?
But
Unless you can put
that
out an
would be
email
fine.
first saying which things you think you can do a one-on-one, so that we don't pick any of those. What do you think?
I don't know.
Are you guys all right with him sending us an email saying whatever topics he thinks he should do a one-on-one, so we don't pick at any of them as our 8? How's that? Is that all right with you guys?
Yeah,
Okay.
we could do that, and then I guess if there's some topics I can call individually on, or some belong more in a budget meeting, we could
Well,
do that.
Yeah, but specifically do these, so we're not gonna pick the ones that you're gonna offer to do one-on-ones with
Okay.
as our part of our aid.
Yeah, and that's up to the council members if they obviously want to do that, so.
You guys are okay with that, right? Okay, you,
Yeah.
Carol? Brian? Grant? You're okay.
Do you, one last thing I'll throw out, and I know, Carol, you may have the work schedule, we could consider starting a meeting earlier and just maybe trying to tackle a lot of these in one longer workshop. I don't know if you'd say we started at 5 or 4 and take a break for dinner or something like that, 2-3 hours into it, and, bring pizza in or something, and just, try to get most of this, at least the discussion out there, because 90% on here is going to require staff to go back to research. It's maybe for the budget at the next meeting. So it's, it's a more of a discussion. Some things maybe instant action, but even like the stuff we did tonight, it's going to be 2-3 months before you see the policy by the time we work it through and all those kind of things with the other stuff we got going. So.
We could even put a time limit on them and say, hey, you know what, we're going to 2-hour workshop, and if we don't finish one of the topics or 2 of them, we'll carry them on to the next meeting. Because none of it's life-threatening right at the moment. So if we started at 5, Brian could be home at 7:15.
Are you suggesting one long meeting versus
No.
like
Well, that's what I
5
threw
short
out there.
meetings?
Just do a longer meeting with a break in the middle and just try to get through them all. Start at 4 or 5, just one time, and let's just work through them all and
Oh, and have dinner.
have dinner break. If we start at 4, we break for dinner at 6. Take a third. It could be a working dinner, 30-minute break, use the restroom, and have pizza. Then keep working through
What
them.
do you think, Brian?
Just the thought.
Do it on the council night?
For that, we might as well just keep it the way it is now.
Well, he's saying if you want to start at 4, then you only have to come out one night a month,
Yeah.
not 2 separate nights. If you come out at 4 o'clock and we do this for an hour and a half, and then we go eat dinner, and then we come back and do the council meeting.
Like I said, for that, I'd rather just keep it the way it is now.
Okay, Grant?
I'm fine with any of them.
Huh?
I'm open to that. I mean, just not during the day.
I'm sorry, which one you're open to?
Just either keeping it the way it is or doing a workshop prior to the regular meeting. I'm fine with either one.
I don't care
Carol?
at this point.
I say keep it the way it is.
What's the way it is? A separate meeting? Okay, I'd say keep it the way it is, but put a time limit on it. So people can go home to the children at 8 o'clock if we start at 6.
Well,
Is
in
that
terms,
fair?
in
Does that
terms-
work for you guys? Anita? Would that work for you? Paul lives here,
I'm
so it
fine with
doesn't matter.
whatever you choose.
Is-
In terms of the regular council meeting, if we, and I'll find where in the handbook where it says 5 minutes, or maybe it's 3, but regardless, but if we are a little more practiced in keeping the public comments to a reasonable limit, then the regular council meetings will move along a little faster.
But yeah, we're talking about how we want to do the workshop. Do we want to do the same with the council meeting, or do we want to do 2 separate times, and the workshop would only be 2 hours at the most?
Right, but the discussion actually, I believe, began with the length of time that the meetings are taking. So I'm just speaking for a regular council meeting. There's no public discussion in workshops, so, okay, there's no trimming time there, so.
No, but we're still just talking about how we want to do the 2
Handle
meetings.
workshops, okay,
Handle work. We are going to do the council meeting like we still do. That's going to stay.
that's correct.
How do we want to do the 2-hour workshop once a month so that it helps everybody with their personal lives? And one of the things on the table is we start a little earlier and we do 2-hour workshops and hopefully get through all the subjects. And if we don't, we just move the subjects to the next meeting. And how the way we picked them, well, let's do that first. Are you okay with that? Doing 2 separate meetings, start earlier with the workshop, say it's 6 o'clock, and at 8 o'clock, we're done. That's it. So it'll be motivating to get through topics instead of being here at 10:30. What do you think?
I say leave it the way it is.
Well, what is that? This,
Where we have the,
So one
6:30, right?
workshop on the first
Yes.
Tuesday.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
yes.
work till we finish them all.
Yeah. And I hate throwing a fourth, fifth thing out there. The other thing we do, we really could look at how we do our regular council meetings, because we're averaging an hour before we get to town business stuff. So we can put the council comment section, the staff comment section at the end of the agenda, depending on how much time we have left, and we can start putting 2 or 3 of these workshop items on each regular agenda, and try to monitor the time better when, you know, our citizens come up to talk. Hey, you got 4 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it is, and we can monitor that and try to get through the agenda a little quicker to get to these items. Because like this next agenda coming up, we've had some flexibility. And the one before, no, it was too long, so we have more time. So we have agendas where we have space for some of these items that we can do,
Well,
and you can get to one
before
meeting a
that
month.
was because you were on vacation for a while, so,
Yeah,
you know, we had 11 different ordinances and resolutions.
I know how to leave.
That was, but that was way above and beyond a normal meeting.
Yeah.
That was a big
You
one.
know, so that was not a good example of having to sit there for 3 hours, 3.5 hours. But I'll just try it. What do you say, Carol?
Well, yeah, okay.
Are you sure you know what you're saying, though?
No,
I don't even know the question anymore, actually, at this point. We've gone so
That's
many.
what
Yeah, I was just throwing out that if we could be a little more efficient how we do the regular meetings, I can probably put some of these workshops, at
Well,
least
you're the
3 or
one
4
who
of
sets
them.
the meeting up. What do you mean?
It's yeah, I set it up. It's just a link before we get to going. So I could set it up where we do all the staff and council for the end of the meeting. Still have the public comment at the beginning, but we could make sure we're efficient with that and get the business right away.
But
What does
the
it
reason
matter,
why we
though?
have it public in the beginning of the meeting, because
'Cause
a
they
lot
listen.
of people can't stay here until 11 o'clock.
That's true.
So
You know,
there's a
actually,
reason for that.
it wouldn't make the meetings any shorter then either. We're just.
I know, you're not, how does that make them, that's a good question.
We're just
How does that
flipping.
make the meeting shorter? if you put it
Well,
that
because
way?
I just think when we got to the council and staff reports and it's 10 o'clock, we would get through them a lot quicker.
Most of my stuff that I would talk is right here. So
Yeah.
it's on there. So and if at some point I'm patient, workshops.
Yeah, I kind of see Joe's point on how would that shorten the meeting, though. You would hope that it would shorten the meeting. And I see Brian's point that he wants to be home, as good. That's understandable. Are you guys okay with putting a time limit on a workshop for 2 hours and having it on a separate day? 2 hours to get away is not real bad, but tonight's going to be 3.5 hours. It's too much. Huh? Come on.
But tonight we wouldn't have gotten through everything if we would have just did 2 hours.
No, so we obviously wouldn't be
We
able
would
to
have
do
to have
that
another
much.
meeting the
Right.
following week anyway then at that point. So
Right, so,
Brian's just giving up extra days versus just one.
well, no, we're just going to take longer to get through it. It's going to take 4 months instead of 6 weeks.
All the items on here, how many of them are gonna end up being one-on-one and how many?
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. So why don't you do that? Why don't you send out your one-on-ones that you can do, Paul, to us? And then we'll give you our list, and everybody can go home and think about what we want to do going forward. So we'll meet the NIP first Tuesday of next month, right? Okay.
Yes, and anything we have on workshops will not show up. Like if you want to do something, it's not going to show up on the next agenda for the regular to go. If we're at the point we want to take action on something, it'll be the following month, just FYI.
Right.
So it gives us time.
None of this is stuff that we have to just.
Yeah, there's not much that would be a quick action thing. It
There's
just
stuff we
it's
need
just-
to talk about, but it's not something we have to vote on right now. All right, well, thank you for coming. I didn't invite you.